That's why I sent you the Mariah Carey GIF. That's legit why.
This is the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan.
And I'm Jerry Baxtron.
And we're going to be bullshitting about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. Today we are hoping Mom doesn't walk in on us masturbating to the upcoming very first issue of Sega Visions today. Specifically the spread we hope it has on Sega's 1989 release of The Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Genesis. Emulation disclosure, I played on Fusion on my PC with the proprietary 6-button arcade stick. Actually, I switched over to the 3-button, so let's go with that. Piped in via USB adapter.
I emulated this through Sega Fusion, I think, on my PC with the 6-button standard controller connected via USB.
Mm-hmm. Please rate and review the podcast and be part of the ISOH movement. Give us validation on your podcast platform of choice in the form of a rating or review, and we will read it here on the pod and feel good about ourselves. So one housekeeping thing before we get into this episode. It turns out that we do not have to cut GamePro out of our lives just quite yet after all. Doing some additional research on the topic after we recorded last time, International Data Group, and has there ever been a more corporate, blatantly nondescript corporation name in the history of them, by the way, International Data Group. It's just like, how benign can we make this to confuse whomever would be? Like, I don't know, filing a lawsuit perhaps, I don't know, but yeah, I just thought that was the worst company name I'd ever heard. But anyways, they did not take over publishing responsibilities of Sega Visions until 1992. So we will wait until the end of 1991 in our mag timeline before making the switch to something else, at which time we will post that poll. Matt Gould. Like, hey, what the fuck? Did I miss it?
Things happened. New information has arrived.
New information has come to light. So I'm glad everyone's eager to make that change, but it's not going to happen until then because it doesn't make any sense. So apologies for the inconvenience of that kerfuffle, anything it might have created in your life, and don't toss your ballots. The tectonic shift will happen eventually. So what are we jamming on now? What are you jamming on now, Jay?
A little bit of Final Fantasy on the NES.
I have heard my text message.
Big surprise.
The group chat has alerted me of this.
I mean, honestly, obviously I'll save the details for when we play it, but yeah, I got sucked into this and clearly just leveled and just kept fighting, and yeah, had to pull myself away to play this Revenge of Shinobi game that we're here to talk about. But needless to say, I'm having a fantastic time.
Really, anyways.
Yeah, may just do damage. Spoiler alert: may just do damage.
They can once you get them rocking and rolling. They can for sure.
Yeah, but other than that, man, I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online again. I have a Magica Warden who I always set up like he's geared to look like he's an Ice Warden, but I never really had the gear to make him like full ice magic. And so I got some new PvP gear. And so I have him in the battlegrounds, which is like 4v4v4, like small scale player versus player battles, like death matches. And so like I got this great like frostbite gear with another like frost magic set. And the whole point of that,
a warden is what exactly? It's just an assistant.
It does like earth magic and like healing and stuff, but like mine is basically all like frost magic. So the whole purpose of that is just to freeze you and slow you down and keep you from doing anything and just do damage. So it's been like wrecking people in Battleground. So I'm having fun with that. And then otherwise just getting my DPS up with my main character so I can actually compete in vet trials again. Because they're always redoing stuff, so you always gotta
sounds so exhausting.
Let me get updated. Let me make sure my DPS is updated where it needs to be. Yeah, it gets a little tiring, but then like the competitive part of me is like, yes, I need to do this because I want to be the best again. You know,
like my Clash of Clans. Like my Clash of Clans. You have so much invested, you can't let it go.
Exactly. like I was always here at the top. Now I'm like down here a little bit. Like I gotta just I gotta get back up there a little bit. I can't let it drop. Gotta have those options to play because they're always releasing new like DLC dungeons, which are always like longer and harder. And so like I have just enough skills there where I'm like, yeah, I can still just jump on a team and play those newer dungeons, those newer like trials that they come out with. So got to keep it up, got to keep going. It's still fun, like it's still a blast.
It's a subscription fee, right?
For the ESO Plus, you don't have to have that, but like you want to have.
Well,
You really want.
what I'm asking is, how long have you been paying them a subscription fee?
How long have I lived in Seattle? Like maybe a year or two after that. So like 5 years maybe. It's nuts. It's nuts. But it's such an amazing, beautiful game. Like all the other games I used to play that were like that. Like I tried to get back into on PC and I'm just like, I can't because ESO now is like visually, graphically, it's just beyond that. And so I'm invested, It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That between that and work, I've been kind of like dabbling into some smaller games here and there, but nothing I can really talk about.
Well, I've been playing a ton of Oculus shit, kind of overwhelming, as you might imagine. Still playing Walkabout Mini Golf, Demio. I just did another run last night. They did an update the other day where they added some shit. They added like vortex lamps, so like the vortex mage spell is now like a lamp on the board that you can shoot, and it sucks everything to this little lamp, which is an interesting new strategy element. There's some new cards. There's a regroup card, so if everyone's spread out, which is great because I always play as the assassin, so I'm often like fucking off somewhere doing something. So having a regroup card where you can just bring the whole party together is a pretty cool feature.
Nice.
That helps you a little more because that is kind of one of the that's why one of the reasons I love the assassin so much is because you can go freelance and do your own thing on your own. But generally speaking, it's the safest thing to do, especially for non-assassin characters, is to stay together and combine skill sets and use that to be the most effective. But with the regroup thing, there's a little bit more incentive. You can get separated, or maybe even just split off 2 and 2 and come together if things get hairy, without.
Like, oh, let's not do that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get over there and get you back to life, man. I don't know. I guess come out and come back in. There were a handful of little, just minute changes. I wish one of them was a new campaign. That badly needs to happen, but we shall see. The last one didn't. I mean, it came out in like May, so you'd think the new one's got to be coming. And unless they feel like it's not being supported, like why would that not be happening? You know what I mean? And I don't see any like actual news about like a drop date or anything, which is crazy to me. Like I just don't know. Like charges for it. Like they will pay. We will pay for it. It just blows my mind that it's not like I don't know. I guess it's probably just a testament to the fact these are smaller teams for that system. It's just not.
Yeah. Maybe they thought 2 would like suffice for a while. Now they're like, oh, people are like, want another one like now? Like, all right, what I mean?
I just don't see how. They had the game. I think the game came out in like March, and they had the Rat King out in like May or June or something, just a few months later. So like they, initially had that clearly has a longer
Must have
development time.
always been the plan.
Exactly right. So how the fuck is a new one? I don't know. It's kind of amazing to me. But shall I go with you? You need me to sweep some? You need me to fucking do some chores for you to give you some time, some free time? I'll come over to the place. Just tell me where it is. I'll help out if you need me, man. So let's get another fucking mission out. So that real VR fishing a little bit here and there. Played a little more Carly and the Reaper actually last night with Amy. That's such a cute, we played a few hours now and we're at 13%. Like I think it's a long ass game. And it's each one they're getting pretty sprawling. It's like 3D, 360 degree, like space puzzles where you're, like I said, you're moving those blocks around, and the little character in the world has to jump, use what the other person who's kind of orchestrating the environment, use the new environmental variables to progress, and they're getting pretty fucking big and crazy now. So I don't know. I can't imagine I can't believe we're only at 13%. Unless they're like, my only thing is maybe like some of that, maybe there's like unlockables or something we're skipping. I'm pretty actually, I mean, as I assume you would guess, I'm pretty thorough and fucking anal retentive about like, there's these little fairies that are put in kind of like compromising places that are There's not even like a counter of how many you're collecting or anything. Like I don't even know if they have any purpose at all. But they're there, and I want them. So, so like I can tell. Yeah, Amy is not that way at all. And I could tell every time like a trying one, I'm like, no, we got to get that. She's like, nah. She wants to say fuck that, but she knows I'm just gonna bitch. So she like begrudgingly does it, and goes and gets it. So.
That is great. That's like the opposite of me and Courtney. I'm always like, let's go to the objective and fight thing. And she's like, let's get every little thing. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like I've acquiesced at this point. So I understand Amy's point of view.
Yeah. So yeah, to me, it's just like my one concern is that there's stuff like that is factored into that percentage, and essentially things are getting lost in the fire, and it won't be as long as it suggests. But if that's not it, and it really is, we've only done 30% of the game to this point. Holy shit, is that game worth $20? Like that's great.
Nice.
In any event, I also, as I mentioned to you via text message, I got Shadowgate VR came out. The Mines of Mythrock is the name on it. And if you've ever listened to this pod before, you've likely heard me gush about Shadowgate on the NES. I streamed a Kill Quest playthrough of it recently. I love the game and the story world. It was fucking great. I was like, the only time they've really, to my knowledge, tried to rekindle the series is Shadowgate 64 on the Nintendo 64, and it was awful. It was a total dumpster fire. So essentially, this is a game that happened in like a big part of my childhood in the late 80s, early 90s, and there's just been nothing good out of that world since. So when I saw this, I was like, I mean, dude, I was walking around doing something, and like I don't know, I saw a trailer, or no, I was listening to that Oculus podcast, and they mentioned it in their like new release stuff coming up, and I was like, Shadowgate, like the Shadowgate that fucking like. What do you mean? How did I not hear about this? And like I'm immediately like Googling trailers and shit. And so I was, day one on downloading that baby. And it's pretty damn good, dude. It's so like they captured a lot of the tonality of the first game, which is you're dying a lot. Like like all those Mac Venture games, Deja Vu and Shadowgate both, like it's in those cases, it's ultra simplified. You just have like the little panel and you're just like literally clicking things and you're just, it's just trial and error, essentially. You're just trying to see what works. And like most times, if something doesn't work, you die. And that's just like what it's, it's like a joke almost from that game. Like it cuts to a Grim Reaper in the panel, and like starts up that music. And like, I'm sure there's memes and shit out there of like, just how frequently, making a joke of how frequently you would see that playing a game like that. And it's like that in this game, but they did it, like their restart system is so quick and seamless that it's not annoying. Whereas in the first one, it's fucking annoying. So you gotta like actually load and come back to wherever your save point was, yada, yada. Like the save points are so frequent in this that you die and it's just like, it's almost, I don't even know, it's almost like playing like one of those fucking, third person things where it's just like, oh, right back to the scene. It's literally, like if you're holding up when you die, you're back in so fast, you're probably running before you take your finger off the stick. Like that, like that level of seamlessness of respawning, and that's pretty cool. And you have, so it's of course a 3D space, and you have this raven bird that's like an actual raven that is kind of your sidekick escort. He's like a magical. The dude
like
who's
familiar type of thing.
Kind of, yeah. He's like the dude who kind of sends you on this mission. The mage that sends you on this mission. It's kind of like an extension of him, But like he's really sarcastic and he talks a lot of shit. So it's like the commentary, and that's one of the things I loved about Shadowgate. The commentary and the writing is like it's very well done. By video game standards, it's witty. It's like really fucking, I don't know. It's not just boring video game copy. Like they do a pretty good job of keeping it interesting and trying to make it funny as much as you can within the confines of a video game world, So they really captured that as well, I think. And so yes, you're taking over a sorcerer in a medieval fantasy setting, and it does some, and I honestly kind of fucking, it's the one thing about it I kind of hate. It does have some FPS, like real time shit you got to do with your wand, shooting enemies and stuff. And
I like that. You got me more interested now.
It's not the best part of it at all by any length, but it's not overwhelming, and it's usually most times the real threat, with the exception of those fucking flying things that you'll bump into a bunch, it's like a shock thing, like because there's a lot of like it's puzzles, so you're constantly like revealing a secret wall, opening a door, yada yada yada. So like you'll open these things or turn a corner and fucking something just goes fucking like, just out of nowhere, and you gotta like you're trying to like because like you have, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this in a I guess I haven't played that much VR, but like so you have these holsters. One has your wand in it, and one has this little ball that you can turn into a shield. So like to you, like when you die, they get reholstered, and and that's almost kind of dumb because there's no reason. Like you don't need. I guess if you want to use post items or stuff, you probably need the other hand. But in any event, like there's no real reason to ever put the wand away. But every time you die, you do have to take it back out. And like if you forget to do that after you and like something happens or you need your wand, you got to like look down, grab, and like it's kind of like it's a little further back, and we especially like I play that game sitting down, so like it's not the most easy thing to grab it out of your holster, and like you're almost surely gonna get fucked with a little bit by whatever you're trying to shoot, so that's a little bit frustrating, but other than that, the controls I would say are pretty damn good. Yeah, and I don't know, it's good. Like I'm definitely, I'm pretty fucking far into it now. Probably, I don't know, 6-7 hours maybe, and I'm almost certain I'll be sticking it out for sure. Like there's other things. Like I stopped playing. I Expect You to Die. I want to get the new Resident Evil 4, but I'm like I can't get that until I finish Shadowgate. So like I know I'm pretty invested. Which is a pretty good sign. And I wanted to. So I told you a little bit about this, but a cool thing that happened when I first downloaded it. So I got stuck on something dumb as fuck, like a really, I don't know, it's not even worth explaining what the fuck it was. Just some dumbass little thing on a bridge, and especially early on, like I'm not gonna look stuff up. Like I want to fuck, but this is a puzzle game. Like if you look shit up, you're ruining the point of the game. So like I was, really adverse to like trying to look stuff up, but it was like I knew it was just some dumb mechanic thing. Like the problem was something mechanic that I just didn't understand how to interact with the world yet. So like I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna look it up, so I'm not stuck on this super stupid thing. It's not like I can't figure out this puzzle element. It's just something dumb. So I started looking around, and like this game is not. It's not being ported from something. It's an Oculus original. So it doesn't exist anywhere else. And Oculus is such a small platform that unlike an Xbox game that comes out, there's not already like a million fucking idiots that have played it and posted every aspect of it online in a video and FAQs and shit. Like none of that existed. So I'm looking around, and this is the first night it came out. I'm looking around, and there's literally nothing about it on the internet. And like, I don't know. I hadn't had that feeling in so long. Like where you needed an answer to a video game and it did not exist. You know what I mean? It just did not exist. It was, I don't know. It was like, it was crazy. Like I was sitting there, I was like, I wish I could call it Nintendo consoles or something. Like that was like, yeah, kind of feeling I had. Like, oh my god, like this is what the feeling of wanting to call the Nintendo consoles was like, and like worried your dad was gonna be pissed off about the phone bill.
Like, sorry, son, get good, figure it out.
Right, exactly right. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's just cool. Of course, didn't expect to be able to get that feeling out of a fucking modern game. And I also found. Did I tell you about the roller coasters app?
Yeah.
Okay. It's free to download. Epic Roller Coasters it's called. So just fucking download it. There's literally zero downside to it, other than maybe vomiting. But so it has in-app purchases, of course. But there's plenty to it. There's enough to enjoy and get the vibe out of it without having to give it a dime. So dude, I can't believe how intense it is, dude. I cannot fucking believe how intense it is. Like.
I'm in disbelief of that statement.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm sitting on my couch. I'm just like, I couldn't believe how physically, like, you could feel, dude, or I think I can feel. Clearly, I don't. You don't sit on your couch with a thing on your head, and you're not going down a hill. But like, you can feel genuine centrifugal force going through turns and going out. I cannot fucking explain it. I don't know what to tell you, but you can feel it. It is a feeling, like a physical feeling, and I can't explain it. Like you do when you first fire it up, it takes you through like I think it was like a 3-step kind of, how physically capable of you. This fact they have that shows that I'm not psychotic because there's like this 3-step thing that like is literally a gradual pushing on your senses as to how intensely you can handle what this game can do to you. You know what I mean? So yeah, you go through each one, go through one, and then there's like this little fucking thing in front of your car. He's like, "How do you feel? You gonna throw up? Want to do the next one or what? What's up?" You know. So like, you know, you go through. I did all three, and I'm like, "Yep, all right, let's go." So we fucking do the thing, and or actually go into the very first one, and you know, the four. I think there's four that are available to you as part of the free thing. The first one is a Jurassic Park type deal where a T-Rex chases you and shit. And so it's like, you know, I think that's a 7-minute ride that they call casual. So it's not even like an intense one necessarily. But yeah, you go past dinosaurs, you like come around a turn, there's a fucking brontosaurus head flying in at you, and then at the end there's a T-Rex chase and shit. It's pretty fucking cool. But so yeah, so you can, as part of this, like you go through, you pick your car, your level, yada yada. You can also pick who rides in the car with you. So like they have, I think actually you can do multiplayer too. So you and I's avatar could go on a ride together, and it's cool because you have a selfie stick, so you can literally whip out a selfie stick at any time, and it's just like a 2-click thing, and you just like click, and like it like whips it out, and like yeah, I posted both videos. The avatar you can create is you know not somewhat capable of embodying an actual human being, you know, and like so yeah, like that, and then but if you don't have a multiplayer thing, you can pick an NPC to ride with you, and they have like just crazy ass options for NPCs, like soldiers and all these different kind of zombies and a Santa Claus and a
That's why
goblin.
I saw you with a zombie, and I was like, "Why is a zombie sitting next
Right,
to
yeah.
me? Like, what is happening?"
It's hilarious because you know they're there the whole time, and like you know you have like that's the whole thing. Like you have 360 degrees, look around, whatever, and like you're riding the ride, you can just look over at it, and he's just sitting there, and he's just like the zombie's just sitting there, just going brains. Like, it's hilarious, and they're like you're like putting like I guess scares maybe you would call them. Like there's something notable happening in the environment, and they'll like point at it and go, brains. Like, and then when you take the selfie stick out, all of them have like a pose for the selfie thing. Like the zombies, like fucking, you know, like it's super stupid and silly, but a remarkably fun addition to this type of app, you know. Yeah, really, really, really cool. And honestly, like I said, for free, I cannot stress enough. It's great. Yeah, there's like it's so damn intense, dude, that it has like this, like a target that it puts on the front of your car. So they tell you, the little assistant tells you at the end of the thing, when you do your little fucking trial thing to find out if you can handle it, tells you like if you feel you're gonna vomit, just stare at the target. So it's like it's almost like a hood ornament, I guess is a good way to think of it, right on your car. And because you know the nausea that the game can create is a lot. It has to do with you know the environment whipping by and like shit being disoriented and moving around constantly. So if you just focus on this target, it kind of and almost like doesn't block all that out, but like how you know whatever the fucking science is behind the human mind, where like whatever creates nausea, like focusing on that minimizes the impact of everything moving around it, you know, and you can just focus on that and kind of get your shit together, you know. And yeah, I mean, I don't really, you know, I don't get nauseous. I definitely don't have a problem with the Oculus. Like the VR doesn't fuck with me in that way, really. And I, you know, ride roller coasters and shit. I'm first car, let's go on every roller coaster. So I was surprised that I needed to use that at times, and I definitely do. Like there'll be times I'll be like, whoa. Like, you can't, you know, there's no. I mean, you can take it off, but like, it's not like I don't know. There's no pause button. It's like you know, you do that, and you're like, the thing is still going, and you're sitting there like, you know, you know, it's almost like testing yourself to some degree too. Like I said, you could just rip it off, but like I don't know, you'll get that feeling, and then like look at the thing, and like you're like trying really hard, like God, I'm not gonna puke. I'm fucking playing the Oculus video game. There's no way, you know. And then like once you feel like you got your shit back together,
I know punk bitch. I know punk bitch.
right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a really fun and cool thing that I'm shocked is free. And there's you know so there's 4 courses. I don't know if you want to pay for it. I'm sure it's some nominal ass amount of money. There's fucking just unlimited amount of I don't know 14 or something different things, and there's 3 different modes you can play. You can do just the classic riding. There's a shooting one where there's targets and stuff you can shoot while you're on these, and then there's a racing one too. I'm guessing you're racing against a multiplayer or something on them. I don't know exactly how that would work, but you can somehow control your movement, you know. So lots of replayability if you want to give them a few bucks, probably.
Nice.
And then, yeah, of course, the selfies like pipe out and you can save them and do whatever you want. So yeah, it's really cool thing that I still want to. Okay, let's fucking talk about Revenge of Shinobi.
That is the stage 1 theme, bringing us in here to our Revenge of Shinobi discussion.
Yes, and we will start with our overview, as we always do. The synopsis is, you are Musashi, the master ninja. Your hands and feet are lethal. In your grasp, every ninja is an instrument of death, or every ninja weapon, sorry, is an instrument of death. Now an evil, powerful enemy, the Neo-Zed, has sent out its own ninjas, soldiers, spies, and villains to take over the world. As a warning to you, they assassinated your sensei and kidnapped the beautiful Naoko. You swear to annihilate the Neo-Zed. You stalk them around the world, destroying them wherever they exist. You never sleep. You never stop. And you don't give up. Until this vicious enemy is destroyed, your world won't be safe. That is pretty fucking high octane.
Right? I love the setup. Let's go. Let's get these Neo-Zed.
There's a few paragraphs before that copy of the manual that set the table of what a ninja and the art of stealth Shinobi is all about too. So if you want to give that a read to really paint the story world before you get into this, by all means. And what kind of game is this, Jeff?
This is a hack and slash 2D side-scrolling platformer. I mean, it's exactly what you expect at the time on the arcades. Typical of early Genesis hotness. Or attempts at hotness.
It is the quintessential arcade port, I would say.
Yep.
So it was released on December 2nd of 1989, and there is nothing interesting at all cooking that day. Blame It on the Rain by Milli Vanilli. It's on the top of the Billboard Top 100. And National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which is the second best Christmas movie ever made, is #1 at the box office. The cover art it's early Genesis black thatch style. Love that shit. And there's a lit illustration of a ninja in the customary ninja attire options. He's got a katana drawn, and it's held in front of his face. Behind him, what I'm guessing would be the arch villain of the game at the time. What the fuck is this thing? Vampire teeth, horns, crazy-ass white hair, mane. Like, what the fuck is that exactly?
Right? Like, is this like a mask? Like, what is this thing behind him? It just looks like evil in some ways. Like,
it is. I would come to learn it is the final boss, but I still don't know what it is. So Shinobi is written in a cool gold font in the title treatment at the bottom, and there's some kind of Japanese symbol behind it, whatever that means. The back cover is your standard 3 screenshots, one of which is larger than the other two. And I love that they frame these with the slight curvature of a CRT television screen. It's such a nice touch design-wise. There's also some semi-original copywriting here that's not in the manual synopsis, and I dig that when they were to spend a little extra time on the copywriting. That's great. The manual, which will be in the show notes, is 24 pages, including covers. There's a full-color cover, and I believe the innards are black and white. I can only find grayscale scans of the thing, so I'm not positive, but I feel like that was the norm with these. There's the all-black thatch carts that I do have manuals for. I actually checked. I have Zoom, Evander Holyfield Boxing, Echo the Dolphin. They're all like that. They have a color cover and then black and white inside. Yep. Page 4, there's a section headed Taizo, preparing the body, I guess is what that means. And some shit that it says here, watch the opening sequence for a preview of Musashi's astounding skill. That's how it describes the opening sequence.
Get you going. Yeah, ninjas, let's go.
Yeah, the opening sequence is admittedly lit, so it's worth referencing, I suppose. I'm sure they were very proud. Page 5 covers your various ninja options. There are 4 difficulty levels: easy, normal, hard, and hardest. It states the enemy counts scale up with difficulty, and then lists diminishing extra live counts for each. So 10, 3, 1, and 1 again, respectively, for the increasing difficulties. I played on normal. How did you play, Jay?
I played on easy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I actually played on normal at first, and then I started over, and I was like, I just want extra lives, so I'm going to play it on easy. No shame. No shame.
No shame at all.
No shame in my game.
There is a shuriken setting, which is as ninja an option as there could possibly be. I thought that was pretty cool. You can set the number you start the game, or maybe level, I don't know, with in multiples of 10, so 0 to 90. So that's interesting. And the life bar particulars are covered on page 7. When you hit 100,000 points, your life bar gains 2 small bars, and seemingly this is just a one-time thing. I don't think it happens sequent times. You get 2 extra lives for finishing the scene, and then at 50k points you get an extra life, and then it'll happen again every 100k thereafter. So a little tough to follow there. I have saves coming anyway, so I didn't really pay attention to lives, but lives were never really an issue. But if you didn't have saves coming, holy shit, would they be?
Yes, they would be.
So yeah, you were worried about your lives. Were you not saves coming?
When I died, whenever I died, I immediately would save state and go back. So yeah, just because I was annoyed. Like there were clearly parts where it was like you would just keep dying over and over, and I'm like, what the? Yeah,
we'll get into it. Yeah, there's a ton of, you can't see what's down there, guys. There's a lot of bullshit death in this game. The ninjutsu skills or arts, whatever you want to call them, are covered on pages 10 and 11. There are 4 varietals of these secret arts. There is Aikazuchi, the art of thunder, which is basically a force field around your sprite that makes you invulnerable for a set number of enemy hits, not time duration. And there's Ryu, the art of the fire dragon, which envelopes you in a column of fire, then splits and travels outwards, scorching anything it touches. I found this to be completely useless. I don't think I ever really used it, maybe twice in the whole game. And both those were exploratory, and I was like, nope. Saves come, or save load, and that wasn't helpful. That was a total waste of my thing. Then we have Fujin, the art of floating, and this increases your jump height and distance. This stays with you for the duration of the scene, even if you assume another ninjutsu. So that's interesting. And there's Mijin, the art of pulverizing. And this is a kamikaze attack that costs you your life by way of self-explosion that kills everything in the blast radius. And notes you should use it when your life is low, which is smart if you're going to lose your life. And it has a fantastic name also. Pulverize is a great word, I thought. This is fucking useless. Did you use this?
I used it once on accident, and it actually was pretty great. I was like, oh, they are done. Wow. I did it on accident. And
the handful of times,
whatever.
The handful of times that I thought to do it, because you have to think to do this right when you're about to die, and it did. He does the thing, and nothing would die. You have to make the decision. You can't it's not like you get hit by something and then choose to do it. You have to I'm about to die. I'm going to go ahead and do this now, get it set, and then get to wherever you think is best to be to do it. And I get pretty close, and I never killed anything with it. And the only benefit I saw with it is that I think, anyways, I'm almost certain. It does if you die normally, you go back to the beginning of the stage. If you use that, you continue from right there. You don't have your art anymore. You can't use an art the rest of the way, but it is essentially kind of like a mini in-stage continue, I guess. So that would seem more valuable to me than the actual explosion part of it. But
yeah, I definitely used it accidentally one time and nuked this certain bad guy, which we'll get into later. And yeah, they were gone. I was like, okay, all right, well, I guess
that's encouraging to hear, because
I had an extra life, so I just kept going.
Obviously, you have to use the jumping one at times, so I certainly use that. But other than that,
I never used that. I used the jumping one time.
Yeah,
it didn't help me. So then I just never used it again.
There were multiple times. I mentioned it. We'll get into the notes, and I'd be curious to hear how you fucking did that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, definitely did that, man. I the only one I ever used was the thunder and the fire. I used the fire twice, and then afterwards I was like, does this it seemed to be, and I think that's not how it works, but it seemed to almost be a hit system, or a certain amount of hits you needed to do. So why would I use this fire to do much more damage? This is unnecessary. Right. So I stopped using that later, but yeah, mostly the thunder.
Yeah, thunder was without a doubt the one I used the most. So pages 12 to 14 are a breakdown of what are called battlefields, each comprised of 3 scenes. So these are essentially the stage structure of the game. We have the Ibukari Province, Japan. The scenes therein are the Bamboo Garden, House of Confusion, and Escape. And it's fun to me that they take the care to name them all. And like they have fun little blurbs of copy accompanying the names here. So then we have Tokyo, which is the waterfall, Baxtron and Bistro. Military base is District 3. That is an airport compound. Cargo jet, computer vault. District 4 is Detroit, which is an interesting locale choice for the first stop in the States, I thought. But I guess it's kind of, I don't know. Everything about the Detroit stuff, all I can think about is RoboCop. I don't know if I'm just like RoboCop fixated or what, but like anytime I think about late 80s Detroit, all I can think about is RoboCop. And they have like very the junkyard, the motor mill, the side yard of the scenes there. So it's just like very automotive focused, you know?
Yeah.
And District 5 is area code 818, which is, I cannot fucking believe that they're using that as the way of saying LA. I just couldn't believe that.
Is that where it is? I'm like, I know it's in California, but like, where's that?
Yeah, that's like that's like the chief LA area code. And I don't know, man. This is a long time before people did that.
Well, no, Biggie was like 818, 203, 313.
Yeah,
So
but even
maybe
Biggie's like 92, 93. Like this is
slightly
80,
earlier. Yeah,
this is 89, man. This came out in 80 fucking 9, dude. Which means they were developing it in 88. And it, you know, like it's crazy. Yeah, like I cannot stress how crazy I think it is that they are using that as like a casual way to reference
maybe
LA.
they were trying to. Maybe there had to be a reason then that they didn't want to say LA
You
specifically,
think?
but wanted to refer to
Why
it.
they,
And
they
so
call it what
like,
they don't give a shit about Detroit, but
clearly not.
but,
Maybe because
but they're worried
in
about LA.
LA. You know, I don't know. Maybe their bosses were from LA and they were like, "Oh, giving the middle finger to LA,"
I don't
but they
know.
didn't want to say it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I cannot explain that, and I think it's just I cannot stress how significant I think it is, or how I don't know ahead of its time. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it, what to say, what to point out about it, but it's something's weird there. Something's notable. So the scenes there are the laser scraper, the freeway, and the high-speed chase. 6 is Chinatown. Scenes there are the Kung Fu Gang, the train, Spider-Man, and there's no definitive identifying info in here. But the train level leads me to believe that we're talking NYC's Chinatown. It's kind of what I was
Right?
thinking.
I was
Yeah,
like, which Chinatown we talking about? Like,
right.
there's Chinatowns multiple places, but clearly it's got to be NYC now
Yeah.
for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, the next level is straight up New York, which I don't know. I'm not sure if that undercuts that idea or enhances. I'm not sure, but the scenes there are the breakwater, the machine room, the cargo hold, and the last district is Neo-Zed Marine Stronghold, which has the searchlight, the cellar maze, the inner sanctum. And then there is a brief blurb on continues at the bottom of page 15 that says you get 3 before game over. Then they offer some survival tips. I always love reading these. Practice, practice, practice. Work on your jump, attack, and somersault skills. Perfect your timing. Somersault skills, definitely. That's super fucking hard to figure out the timing on. Or really get it down, I should say. And then carry as many weapons as you can so you're never caught short. Learn the weak spots of your assailants, especially the power villains in scene 3 of every district. And then decide on your best attack position. Close in or from a distance, then do it. Enemy score point values for a couple pages, a half page of the Sega style score, like it's just a very Sega specific thing or Genesis specific thing. Maybe even I'm not sure the SMS ones have it either, but like it's just like a very different. It's like a grid that they do. They expect you to write your scores down in instead of just the notes lines that NES manuals got. It's fun difference. So notable history.
Honestly, the only notable history I found was all the fun copyright stuff. Should we get into that? You want to talk about that?
I was actually, and I don't even remember what there was when I found that article, but I remember before, just when I think right after we decided we were playing it, I was looking at shit for it, and like all the things that were supposed to be in it ended up not being in it. Some of them are clearly still rip-offs of the things that they just rescan. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear what like actual.
So it's funny because there's not a lot out there in terms of like actual this is what happened. It's just like copyright issues. Like there's a theory that like the guy who created this was kind of like, here I'm putting Spider-Man down. I'm putting Batman in here. I'm putting Godzilla. I'm putting these
Batman, that was
guys.
the one I was bummed out was not really in it. I'm curious.
Right. Well,
that, but
well, that's the thing. But apparently, like the theory or one story is that the guy who was designing this was like put those characters in, but he wanted his team to like he expected them to change them and modify and do the stuff, and they never did. They just like put the shit in there as is, and then like stuff would start to happen, and then it'd be like, oh, we got to revise this. This can't be actual Jackie Chan. This can't be Spider-Man. But then clearly they had a Spider-Man license, so then they just made that look more like Spider-Man and just modified the other things. And in doing so,
did it come out in Japan with those things? Is that the thing? Like that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then it subsequently it had to change to like make like Batman is gone, replaced with the weird devil thing, which when I was playing it made no sense because I'm like, what are you doing now?
Is that what it was? The Dracula? The Dracula thing with the bats and shit?
Yeah. You called it Dracula. I thought it was just like a demon thing. Like I had no idea. Like
the bat to me, it was the bat. The bats was like that must be a vampire. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you thought it was that? I was just like, what? A devil, a demon? Like
visually, I mean, yeah, it's
either way.
Yeah, it's definitely not your like Universal Studios Dracula, like stock Dracula. It's definitely like a more Bram Stokery type demonized deal. Yeah.
More importantly, why are you paired up here with Spider-Man?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I have
like explain nothing to me. I don't understand.
Why are they pairing up bosses like that at that point in the game? Period. Is its own conversation. When that second thing came out, I was like, "What the?"
That's what I said. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, pretty much that's it. I mean, they would just subsequently change stuff like in each release in the US and Europe, and now we have like the version that you and I have where it's basically they stripped everything else out.
Yeah.
The story makes no sense now.
The Godzilla one. Well, I mean, the story wouldn't make any sense with those characters either. Like, maybe even, less.
Also true.
Yeah.
But think about this. There's always a point where superheroes fight each other first, and they're fighting, and it's like,
sure, but that's the thing. Like,
I'm trying to kill bad guy number one. He's like, I'm trying to kill bad guy number one too. Should be best friends to stop fighting. Like, I could see that, but like, you don't have multiple. You don't have Batman and Spider-Man. They don't even exist in the same universe.
Right. Well, that's my big thing is like to say that suggests that Musashi and this story that's happening to him is happening in a world where those things exist. Like, and that's the weirdest part about it to me is that everything else, like the game already has its own universe. Like it's not like those things need to be there. You know what I mean? There's already this thing. They have the story, the Neo Zed, the fucking Musashi, his sensei's been killed. Yeah, exactly. His girl got taken. Like that's like those are all things that can exist on their own and can give you enough things monster wise, whatever, ninja themed fucking adversaries where you don't need to do it. It's just so weird. It's so fucking weird. It's so weird. And I mean, it's also kind of again, I don't know how you explain those actual existing superheroes that exist in their own existing universe, but the idea that like the Neo Zed is kind of like that's Neo. It's kind of like I don't know, like cyberpunky almost, in that they're like like yes, they have these old world roots. You know what I mean? These ninja old world. Like that's where it comes from, but in modern days they've kind of absorbed other tools and villains and whatever to make this modern arch fuck. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of cool and interesting, but those actual characters from existing IPs is crazy. It's just such a batshit insane.
But that's what doesn't make any sense. Like you said, like you got me with the copy, you got me with the setup. Like I'm into it. Let's go kill these Neo Zs. Like they gotta die. But why are characters that don't themselves exist in the same universe here? Like why is the Terminator here? Like that. I was like, wait, what? Like I'm fighting these things, and then even later in the remastered version, which came out on Xbox Live and like PSN Network, like apparently they lost the Spider-Man Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so now they swap that out to just like some weird palette swap that still acts like Spider-Man. It's like you had no vision. Like this was just a cluster from the beginning.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, the licensing stuff, of course, is going to lapse, and they're not. I mean, yeah, modern day U.S. release is not going to have. They're not going to go back and get the Spider-Man license for that, and they're not going to. I'm surprised. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm just surprised they put it out at all. I'm surprised they took the time to do the palette swap on the Spider-Man. To be totally honest with you, I'm shocked to hear that exists in the remastered version. But yeah, I mean, even like Godzilla, the thing, like it just took us like it was funny to me the play on words that like that's called a reskinning. And what they actually did was just take his skin off. Like it's almost meta in some way. I don't know if it's such.
We're gonna flip it, bro. We're gonna flip it and just take the skin off, dude. It's gonna be tight. Check.
There's the thing that I don't think it was called reskinning then. Like that's like I feel like that's a modern term that gets used for video games. Like that didn't exist then. So like. I don't think it was a play on words. It was just like their solution, Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a wacky, and it's so, I don't know, man. It's just so. Sega's a crazy company. They do a lot of crazy shit, and like honestly, maybe that should be the answer. That nothing should surprise us because Sega's so much crazy shit in this era in particular, but just historically, I think they're just a crazy company, and like they're just so different than Nintendo, and like they care so much less about so many things, So. Seemingly so. I don't know what the fuck do I know, but that probably is the answer. I wanted to do an economic. I was absolutely certain I'd come up with an economic analysis for this, but it took me so long to finish the game that I never got around to doing one, unfortunately. So let's just get to the actual playthrough. Distance, the introduction theme plays along with the opening title sequence, and it's got a track name. So what does that mean, Jay?
It means hotness.
Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack is fucking heat, and that is a true fact. So getting into the one player playthrough of Revenge of Shinobi, the Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis. We start with a title screen, and we get our staple Sega logo at the time of power-up. Some legalese tipping us off. Spider-Man is in the game, and they're allowed to be doing that without consequence, anyhow. And then the opening sequence, we were told the manual would demonstrate Musashi's astounding skill starts. There's like some dope ninja silhouette action. He jumps off the screen. Shurikens start flying back and forth real big in the foreground before Musashi lands an ECU with his katana drawn, and with which he starts deflecting those oncoming shurikens. And I mean, it's pinnacle Genesis cinematic stuff. Like it looks and sounds fantastic in like that tinny way, and it just they're just, especially you think how early it is. They must have been so excited to like. Can you just imagine like they're at the lab like, can you believe this is on a home entertainment system? Like, on a home
it's
video.
ninjas, dude. It's ninjas. Let's go.
Like fucking good it looks. So then we have 5 screens worth of text, then streaming by, setting up the story with more original copywriting that does an even better job of world building than the manual description, if you take the time to comprehend it, anyhow. And then the demo action gets going, complete with music and sound effects. So they did not spare any expense on the pre-game shit with this. And hitting start brings up a menu offering to start or tweak options. The cursor on that is properly themed as a little ninja throwing dagger, which is odd. And you can select start from there, and you're shown a fairly linear district progress map, so you know what the hell's going on. And I love that, of course, maps to give context. And then you drop into the action. So you drop into stage 1, and let's talk controls, HUD shit. You have controls over how buttons are mapped via the options menu, which is a pretty cool feature that not every game has. So you can actually change these up if you want. But the default is A uses your ninjutsu power, B is your attack button, C is your jump. And the manual says hitting C again at the top of your jump incites a somersault. And immediately I learned how unpredictable and how unreliable that was. Like it's lit. I mean, it's got to be at the absolute apex of it.
Like the tippy tip top of the jump. Like there can be no wavering.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's all, it's definitely not a whole second. It's I don't know, without trying to be too fucking hyperbolic, 12 frame, you know, well, the shit runs at 60 frames a second, so maybe 30 frames, you know, but like the frame window is super fucking small, man. It is just, and it's, you know.
You miss it. You just missed it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you know, some of those fucking, you know, the levels with the two planes on them, just like the freeway one, where you got to use somersault to, like, you know, that's important as fuck to be able to reliably switch between those two planes. Like, oh my god, man, that's fucking rough. Really, really.
I don't know how many continues you get in this game, but if I wasn't like playing emulation wise, where I could just save, I'd use them all. I would have had to use them all and start over multiple times, like just from jumping, just from trying to jump because the controls don't react the way as responsively as you think that they should.
Yeah, and I think I would say, generally speaking, that like even, you know, like the attack, like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is just me, maybe you'll tell me that you didn't have this same frustration, but like, I fucking hate how your ranged attack and your melee attack are the same thing, because you don't, and you know, and that'd be one thing if you had unlimited ranged weaponry, but you have a finite number of those fucking things.
Yes.
So not quite where you want to be or where you need to be. I mean, you want to be there, you think you're there, that's why you're hitting the button, but like, if you're not quite where you need to be in tight wise on an enemy, you're gonna waste a shuriken on them, and you know, I don't know, it's super frustrating to me in general, and like, because of that, like, you know, you're often not only burning the, like, you're, you know, you're, because you, like, if you go into do a melee attack, you're gonna multiple times, you hit the button multiple times, you're trying to fucking, this is a fast-paced game, and
Jam 'em.
at least the things around you are moving fast. I don't know if Musashi is, but but everything around is moving pretty fast, so you want to fucking be, you know, you're attacking quickly, and like, yeah, you burn and waste so many shurikens because of that duality. That is really frustrating, man. Really fucking frustrating aspect of this game.
Oh yeah, there was bosses that I was on where I was purposely trying to get as close as possible to not use shurikens, and I'm not close enough, and then they could hit me, and I'm just like, what is the right distance then? Like, come on, like there's got to be, you got to give me something, man. That's
really fucking hard. Yeah, you know, every enemy, some of the enemies have such, you know, they're to their credit, Musashi too, everything is so big, you know, it's like early Genesis, so all the sprites are real big and shit. So like, you know, the actual the hit boxes or how close you got to be to one, it's not reliable from one enemy to the next because of their animation sizes and stuff. So like, you just, yeah, it's just completely unreliable. So many aspects of it are completely unreliable, and because of the finite nature of your projectiles, it's really frustrating, really difficult part of this game that shouldn't be where the difficulty gets introduced.
Plus, when you jump and you actually use the attack where you spray the shurikens, like you're using that many each time, and it's like, if I got a couple enemies where like this is such a reliable attack, like I might be shurikenless.
Right. With,
you know,
sans shuriken. Yeah, I mean that's like, I mean that's the thing too about the unreliability of the somersault, because like, yeah, it's one thing if you need the somersault to move the planes, but I mean, even just progressing through a normal stage like that, doing that attack, because I guess we should say it's like a 45-degree angle of maybe 5 shurikens that come out at like that.
It said up to 8 in the manual. We'll see. Yeah,
you know, a lot, and it essentially just clears out the way below you, which is critical, especially because so many of these fucking levels you're dropping down into things where you can't even see what's below you, which I don't even know if that's necessarily applicable, but you know, even just, you want to go from one thing to the next, and you need to clear that fucking small little ledge you want to land on out before you get down there. Like, that's how you would do it, and like, to not be able to depend on that when you're advancing it's just fuck, like, really fucking frustrating, man. Really, really frustrating. And then if it doesn't work, you're just gonna literally land on the thing's head and bounce into the hole that you were jumping over.
Exactly. You're gonna get knocked off the ledge.
Yeah, 1000% Ninja Gaiden. Like, and it's funny to me that they're 2 Ninja games, but that's exactly, like, it's a Ninja Gaiden thing. Like, you know, and like Ninja Gaiden, it's not the same exact problem, but like, that same thing happens a ton. And Ninja Gaiden is one of the big complaints about the controls for that too. So it's funny. I don't know. It's weird to me that they're both ninja themed. So I actually, on the topic of shurikens, I like, maybe I don't know my ninja options as well as I think I do, because I didn't think those are shurikens. To me, shurikens are like throwing stars. They're like the actual, like, almost like a snowflake looking thing. These look like, I would call these knives, throwing knives.
Yeah, they were definitely like little blades.
Right.
Like to me, they look like little pocket knives. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen all 4 Karate Kid movies and just generally grew up in the 80s, so I think I would know.
they had the right name, wrong sprite. Like
Right.
clearly nobody paid close enough attention to any of the detail of this game.
Yeah.
From bosses to shurikens to whatever.
Yeah, I think technically they might actually be. I think we might be wrong. And I'm shocked I didn't do the research, but so there are there are copious amounts of those like the pickups for those are pretty everywhere. So it gets like I never spent like long stretches without sufficient shurikens, but it was just literally the feeling of it is bad. It's like an unhappy feeling to watch this limited resource that you're so reliant on get wasted so much. It was just kind of like
Well, I would also go down at key points. I would have a lot earlier in the level, and on those later levels, then end up with like 23 or something by the time it's boss time. And I'm like, I'm gonna need this. Like, this is not ideal. You know what I mean? It would seem to be decreasing at the inopportune times.
of course, right.
Naturally.
And I'm sure that was, you have to think that's probably built into the game design and game difficulty, like
Yeah.
get you to waste them on something where you're going to need them later, I'm sure. Like they're fucking old video game. People are punitive, punitive beings. So yeah, you can backtrack as much as you want in a scene, which is cool. Like you're not like clipped off. As you progress, you can go back. Can you not?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay.
I definitely tried to go back before, and I was like, darn it, I can't move backwards. So, like,
Oh,
you definitely
really?
can on certain stages. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I never clocked when I was testing this theory out. It worked. So okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not surprising to hear, I suppose, for the same reason I just stated above. Your status bar up top has your life bar, shuriken count, which ninjutsu discipline you're rocking with, and the lives remaining with a little ninja headshot next to it. And that is the entirety of the HUD. So we're playing a video game, and we are starting in District 1, Ibaraki province, rather. And you begin in the bamboo garden, and it looks just like the picture. Those words likely paint in your head. It's like dope-ass mountains in the far background, a thick forest in front of it, and a pretty sick crescent moon high in the night sky. And there are tall bamboo stalks like there's like it's almost like it's such an impressive looking game, I think, throughout. Actually, look at the fucking thing behind you. But yeah, there's like 3 levels or 3 layers, maybe a better way to put it, of visuals in these levels, and it's really cool. Like you have like the deep background, you have a near background, you sometimes or either a near background or a foreground, one or the other, and then you have your actual play field, and again, like we mentioned, some of a couple of levels even have multiple play layers in them. So really, I think a pretty complex game visually, particularly for the time and the fact that it's early Genesis. So.
I like that. I mean, it's nice. There's definitely parts. There's a part later where that 3D interaction threw me off, and I wasn't sure which thing I needed to jump on. But it's
Sure,
generally speaking, it's nicely done.
Yeah. So yeah, there's also, wooden buildings, the tile roofs with the curvature to them, like various kind of stock, stereotypical Japanese architecture stuff going on. And we are introduced to some basic grunts here. We have Omo Ninja, Kabuto Samurais, and Hachi the dog. The manual says the dogs can catch shurikens in their mouths. So your best bet is to get in close and katana their asses. And the enemies, you'll quickly notice, transition to a very dramatic explosion animation when you frag them. Everything in the game except one we'll get to later. And I don't know, I always think that's kind of intense because, like, I can't recall ever being hurt by it, but I don't know. It's just like, yeah, why do you need that? Like, why waste? I don't know. Why waste the processing power on that animation?
But that threw me off later because the bombs do that animation,
Right.
and that hurts you. So like, there was a point where I was like, wait a minute, do I need to be concerned? And I didn't, but it threw me for a second.
Yeah, and
dealing with those.
That's worth mentioning too. That there. So you have they're crates mostly in most cases. Maybe even not. There are very late in the game. I didn't find one until, but there are hidden things too that aren't necessarily in crates where you can get pickups from. Just like, I don't know, whacking an empty space in an area or something. But for the most part, they're in crates, and there's like a couple different shuriken pickups. You can get a replenishment of your ninjutsu art. You can get extra lives. You can get a heart that gives you life back, of course. And then there are also bombs. They look like a plastic explosive kind of thing, and they're fucking everywhere, man. And there's these things. The crates in general are everywhere. So you're like, you're blowing through it, and like it's one of those examples. And I don't know, there's no other way to introduce difficulty in a lot of ways in an older game like this. But it's just one of those examples of kind of like the not knowing what's below you and you have to jump down there kind of thing that this game presents as like a quasi difficulty. And it's just, like you of course you won't need to open all these boxes. You need the shurikens, you need the life, you want the fucking other things.
So you have to open them all and find out.
Yep. And eventually I think you play this game enough, you train yourself to hit the box and get the fuck out of there almost instinctively, but like it's not always necessarily feasible. And I don't know, it's just kind of like a fake difficulty layer, that more often than not is just frustrating and stupid than actually feeling like I was presented with a challenge that I failed at. And that there's, like I said, they're everywhere. There are situations where like that one on the outdoor train where there's like 7 boxes in a row. 6 of them are bombs, and the one in the middle is the heart. It's just
it's like
fuck
what?
Fuck off, man. Whatever.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of health back after we take some first.
Yeah. So at the end of the level, there is a flashing red arrow that says exit on it, and that is a very arcadey thing, I think. Like that again, talking about kind of how this is a arcade, very arcadey in a lot of ways. This is like one of the prime examples to me of like a big arrow on the screen telling you, because there's a million video games making noise, a bunch of kids are running around. They're kids anyways, they're not really paying attention, so you got to do little things to kind of keep them on course, and they absolutely do that here, even though, like, I don't know, logic suggests that, like, you're scrolling left to right, you just walk right. We don't need that, but they put it here anyways.
But I do like that they do that, just because that's a little thing that shows you, like, oh, that's definitely the way to go. That's the end. It's like, yes, there's a little bit of satisfaction.
Exactly. And honestly, that's kind of maybe that could be every bit as much of the incentive as to include that as actual information being provided. Is like, it is just kind of like those little dopamine hits that video games in general give you. And that is a
like, I made it. Let's go.
Exactly. Visual reward, and just the second it clips on the screen, you're like, oh, thank God. Especially in some of these levels, where you're like, some of those laters ones, where you're like, fuck, I want this level to be over so badly.
Yeah.
And also, it also kind of gives you just another layer of that. It gives you like a little bit of a pressure thing. Ooh, I'm there. I gotta not fuck up the next screen worth of shit. I gotta not fuck up because I'm there. So like, just adds a little bit of pressure too. That's pretty fun. So. Yeah, well, I'm not at all knocking it as an inclusion, and they have a little stage clear music cue that I enjoy. And then we are on to House of Confusion in Scene 2, and the manual blurb for this is, dodge the sharp bamboo grills, they'll hurt you. And here you are heading inside one of those buildings, and I want to call it a dojo. I can't possibly be certain I'm right, but I want to call this a dojo. Sure. And they are indeed bamboo grills in here, or there are indeed. And I wasn't sure how to deal with them at first. Like, I couldn't find a way to not take damage from the one that would drop down. Like you couldn't there's no like easy way to hop through them. I don't know. Just I wasn't exactly sure to traverse these. And like I couldn't. There was no way to get over it when it was down either. Like those couldn't. I don't know. The ropes wouldn't let. I don't know. I couldn't exactly figure it out.
Yeah, you just accept that you're going to take some damage and you keep it moving.
Move on.
Pretty much.
Also, just never a pleasant feeling with a video game. Just like, no, you're gonna get fucked up a little here, and you just gotta roll with it. So
yeah.
So going through this house, I had no idea, like, if I was trying to get upstairs or try to get, like, I didn't know that back wall was a door, basically. So like I got to the end of the thing. It's like, okay, do I got to go back upstairs and backtrack or what? And I didn't immediately realize how to get upstairs, like a somersault up there. Like, this is the first time you're dealing with any verticality really, so you don't exactly know what to do there. And then once you do finally get the fuck outside, And this is the only time this is in the game. It's so fucking weird that this was here, you know? Like, where you gotta, like, you get to a place, you gotta backtrack. It's the only time you're gonna see that arrow pointing you the other way. You know, you get
Right?
outside, you open the door, you get outside, and you gotta, like, go out and, like, I didn't even know it was a switch, but, like, I just randomly step on the thing, and, like, the arrow pops up and tells you to go back the other way. It doesn't tell you where to go. You know, but, like, gotta go back, and go back in the house, and, like, even then, like, I was like, I didn't understand it all. Like, okay, now do I got to go upstairs, you know? And eventually you figure out that you got to go back in, and there's a hole is opened up that I
drop down.
Right. I think, was it bamboo stuff that was sticking up out of it before, and I got rid of the bamboo stuff, or was that just not there? I couldn't
think it was just a hole, and unless like, yeah, it was bamboo covering it before, but you went back over and it was kind of just like, maybe I go down. Like, I've already went up. There's nowhere else to go. Like, I'm just going to drop in the hole and see what happens.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, there's no way to look down. You know, there's no, like, that was one of the really cool things with Sonic the Hedgehog. That's one of the really cool things about the function. Even the first one had that, where you could, when you held down, you would crouch, and then the whole view would shift down like a half screen, so you could look below and see what the fuck you're jumping down into. You know, and that's like you know, the question is, like, how would you give them the ability to do that? And, like, that's exactly what you do. Like, crouch down, and then I could be, and, like, the thing is, there's so much, but they would do it with a delay, though. You would have to hold down for like 3 seconds or something for that to happen. So that's the answer to that too, because, you know, you do so much crouch in this game, but you also got to do a lot of crouching where you got to stay down. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the solution is, but there's got to be a way to be able to look down there. There just has to be for this kind of game if you're going to make me drop down into shit all the time. But
yeah, it was just kind of like no other option at that point. You know, there's no. It's like, if I die, I die.
Like I took the fact that he has to go back into the house and then go underground, you know, and like what is the psychology of why I would figure out to do that is like just ninjas doing ninja shit, you know, like you know, like the ninja has to go. Of course, he's got to go do some subterranean shit, you know, and like find a fucking foxhole or something, you know, because that's what ninjas do. Like covert operations, whatever. So yeah, you get down underground, and I wouldn't say it's fucking. Like, I was shocked at the difficulty upscale even here early on. Like, once you got down below, there was a lot of shit going on down there to me. A lot of quick twitch response enemies coming out of secret, like the things coming out of secret doors and shit. Like,
yeah, immediately, just like, okay, head on a swivel, like immediately.
Right. Yep. And yeah, it leaves some like remaining crouched while fucking moving around stuff down here that you hadn't really tested out yet, you know. So yeah, like, this was definitely like a little bit of a learning curve area. And yeah, this is when I really started to clock that this was not like quick responsive movement is not Musashi's strong suit. Like, it's just not. And that, like I would say, like, they're going for this very deliberate, calculated feel to the control. It kind of reminds me of Castlevania. How, like, your dude, I don't know, it's almost like lumbering, you know? Like, once you got to know what you're going to do a second before you're going to do it.
Yes.
And I guess an entire second. Whereas most games, like, yes, you of course think what the fuck you're going to do, but then you're doing it a nanosecond later. In this game, it's like, a second from now, I'm going to need to start a jump. Where 2 seconds from now, I'm going to be there. And that's like, it's almost like a fucking chess game. That's just like a little bit kind of real time.
It's like, nope, I didn't do it quick enough that time. Let me start over. Like, okay, now I got the right.
Yeah,
yep.
and that's, I mean, it's you know, Castlevania is frustrating at times for that same reason, but that doesn't make Castlevania bad. So I'm not, you know, I don't want to roast this for that either.
But that doesn't make it fun, though. To me, that takes the fun, where it's like, okay, I'm just like,
yeah, exactly. Like, for Castle, I think it works. It's less not in line. It's more in line with Castlevania as a game and a theme and a whatever. Where, yeah, like, this is, everything is bigger, everything is faster. You're a fucking ninja. Like, he should be just, dexterity should be like foundational part of his character set, his skill set. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's definitely tougher here, and something that has to be gotten good at to be able to even survive, let alone excel in this game. You know, so little frustrating. Things just slowly mounting is frustrating. So yeah, after you work your way back up out of the tunnel, you're in another dojo, and a handful of samurai dudes stand between you and the exit. So deal with them, and then you were into the third scene, which is titled "Escape." And the manual blurb reads, Mighty Samurai Blue Lobster blocks your escape, which is, I don't know. I mean, I guess lobsters.
What?
Yeah, lobsters are not like a giant lobster, I guess is a somewhat opposing thought. But for some reason, blue lobster just does not sound scary to me at all.
No, that sounds like a delicacy. Like, is that a special lobster? Like, is it chilled extra nice for me? Like, what does that mean?
So yeah, so that's what this is. Just a boss arena. All these third scenes are going to be just an arena area with you're dealing with bosses, I suppose. And this one is just a massive samurai dude with a ridiculously sized sword. And I use the Art of Thunder ninjutsu power, the force field, to just literally kamikaze into him and get much of the damage he had to take to be faded. And I mean, the best strategy I could find was you could like jump over, like it's a very lumbering chop that he does, and you could jump over that, after which he kind of dawdles for a second before he would pull his sword back up, and you can get over and behind him and attack him from behind. And I'm not 100% sure that would work as like a repeatable thing if you're not force fielded, but between the force field and doing that a couple times and probably still taking some damage, I was able to take care of his ass, I think, on the first try.
Nice.
Yeah, how was your first boss?
I took him on the first try too, but he was annoying at first. I actually used the fire first, and then I would just jump over his head and use like throw shurikens. So I ended up using like all my shurikens,
You were
like
hitting.
just jumping over and like.
I generally found that the projectiles were pretty useless against bosses in general.
I mean, only because at that point he's like down with his sword, and so he can be hit at that point. Like, but if I mistime it, obviously they're just bouncing off of him. Hence, using all my shurikens.
And then you were on to, before you go back to the map, it takes you back to that map screen, and like it, the little red line will progress, and it shows you kind of like just an icon of representative of the next district that you're going into. This one is to Tokyo, and the first scene is the waterfall. This is I think this is the first thing you texted me pissed off about.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, that's how long it takes to get pissed off. It's level 2 in this game. So the manual blurb for this is crossing the waterfall is the only way to Tokyo. Jump on the swirling logs to advance. And this is, yes, waterfalls, rock faces, logs. The ninjas are the same color as the water at times. And that caught me a little off guard and was a little annoyed. And they introduced ninjas with bat wings. So they're flying enemies, and those are always the fucking pits. And yes, this is, I 100% got Ninja Gaiden here for the very first time, where you're jumping down to an unseen area from above, and you're whacked by an enemy before you even land, and then you bounce into a fall death, and it's just
constantly.
the worst.
And then why do ninjas have bat wings? Explain that to me. Explain. Like, this makes no sense, and that just kept happening to me. Like, I don't know what was happening. I was ready to break my Sega Genesis controller. Done.
Well, this is listen to this. Up until this point in the game, so 4 levels into this baby, this is where I realized that I had all the ninjutsu arts for the first time. I thought I only had the Thunder one, and that I was going to get additional ones as like rewards for progression.
I thought that too at first. Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't even. I think I like,
just had to pick them up.
Right.
Or something.
Right. Yeah. Just by pausing accidentally and like hitting the arrow because I didn't mean to hit pause is how I learned that I could use these. So. Yeah, I don't know, terrible job of conveying that. They could have done a little better in the manual of explaining that those were all available to you. Like it kind of covers it in the manual, but the wording is vague enough where because I go through the manual, I definitely read that part and I did not know that was going to be the case. So
the fact that we both thought the same thing, like, come on, guys, poor job.
Yeah, take it up a notch. So yes, this is a fucking lot of platforming and a lot of kind of just guessing whether you're going to land somewhere safe. And there's a lot, like there's a few instances, or 2 sequences I think there are, where there's like logs fucking coming down the mountain and you got to just like literally ride the floating log. And then the last one at the end, they're actually perfectly vertically oriented. So they're like, you're jumping on this little tiny thing floating down, and there's 3 of them you got to get across to get out of the fucking level. So
that's ninja stuff. Only ninjas can make those jumps.
Only ninjas can make those jumps. That's true for sure. I think it's hilarious to me because you just there's no transition whatsoever. You just go straight from the waterfall and you're in Tokyo in a back alley somewhere. And I just think it's hysterical to me that that area leads to Tokyo, like that you could try to that you know logistically get you to Tokyo, and there's no intern whatsoever. It's hilarious, but very video gaming. So this next one is called the Backstreet, and the blurb reads: the building is taller than you think. Vicious flower dragon gangs lie in wait. And this level has a swanky ass music track I really, really dig. Aesthetic is an urban alley, and you can see a pretty slick parallax scrolling night skyline backdrop in between the building silhouettes as you pass, which is a really cool effect, I think. You know, you have, again, it's just you have the background layer of the buildings, and then also another background layer behind them, and then it's really well done, I think. It's very cool. And this one, I almost felt like it was cheat codey. Like, if you immediately get vertical and get to the rooftops, you can avoid what I guess is most of the bullshit in this level for sure. You know?
I did that. I don't know if it was just like, I think in general, whenever I'm on a platforming game, I'm like, how high can I get?
Exactly right. Yeah. Well,
and I must have succeeded right off the bat.
Yeah,
right? But yeah, you're right. Like, I must have succeeded right off the bat because I flew through this and fought like no one. Fought like very, very few bad guys.
Same for me. But I can see shit down below, though. Definitely.
Yeah, stuff happening. Coming to my level.
Didn't have to fucking deal with it for sure. That's great. See, at the end, there's a flashing sign for a disco right by the exit arrow, you know? And there ain't no ninjas keeping this ninja out of the discotheque, so let's get our asses in there. And this is the boss arena scene, and it is called the Bistro. And the manual blurb for this reads: blinded by strobes, you romp with the Shadow Dancer. And this is the image that's behind me right now, this boss battle. So this is this is about where I was, I think, when you were bitching about the waterfall. And I was like, dude, this game is fucking I was like, I think I'm digging this. Like, this game looks incredible, man. And again, I am working from I lived through the Genesis era and was on board, not quite this early, but enough to kind of experience the progression of games. And, it fucking is incredible looking. Like, this is an incredible attempt to create this kind of environment, So it's got all this foreground action that is that's what those colored dots are. They're supposed to read as strobe lights. They're just big balls of color flying around, really, and those change colors and they're moving around constantly. So they're just, it's kind of like, you can see my sprite behind this one. Like, I think we have to move to see it, but you get obscured behind it, and the enemy sprite can too. So they're trying to that is trying to create a disorientation for you as the player, and it achieves that, and that's pretty fucking impressive, I think, to do something that wild visually and have it actually have that also real world effect that you would get from being in that environment, having a ninja fight in particular. So pretty fucking cool there. And the back walls have a purplish hue to them, and they have Z written in bright green on them, which gives off the impression of a black light situation, which is also just a really cool, small visual nuance that I really dig, and is just narratively relevant to this fucking arena. So yeah, really cool. And I don't know if I would say there's a more visually intense boss battle on the system. And I played a lot of Genesis games. It just, because so the Shadow Dancer, the actual guy you're fighting, that fucker in the yellow there, so he moves like a pretty normal ninja in yellow garb, and he leaves kind of this acid trail thing behind him, which again, the black light, sure, strobe lights, the disco, it's again just a really well themed fucking fight, I think.
It was a hard fight, man, just to see because of that visually. It was tough.
Exactly.
It was tough to even keep track with his shurikens, especially after you hit him and he goes into his shadow form. Then you're like, what?
Yeah. So the lights, on top of those colors, the actual light of the room comes in and out. You have this light and dark balance. And yes, he has talent is what I keep wanting to say, but like a skill to make himself go shadow. So with that thing, when it goes darker and he's in shadow mode, you can't see the motherfucker. So like, I mean, it's happening so fast that you're, it's only a few frames maybe that you're a second maybe that you're fucking not able to know exactly where he's at. But still, again, in a fast-paced boss battle, like that's a really, really tricky thing to introduce. So yeah, it's really fucking cool. I ended up like if you stayed low and just this is actually where I did use some shurikens on a boss. But if you just stayed low and pegged his ass from afar, it was pretty effective. And I even when at the time I did beat him, I even got him into kind of like a pummel loop at the edge of the screen. Like for some reason, I had him locked in the corner, and I just tagged his ass for like the last 3 or 4 hits, and he couldn't even get out of it. So working from afar was staying low and working from afar was kind of my strategy there. That was effective.
That is different than what I did. I actually, it took me a while to get used to his unit, like his movements at first, but then he would jump, and I would just immediately go to where he was going to be, like right up close to him. So when he would land, like his shurikens would miss me, but I would immediately hit him. So he would jump up again. And so I would just keep him in a loop. I would just immediately hit him like up close. Once I got used to that, like he couldn't, it was like clockwork and he was done. But before that, he just like hit me over and over again.
He's got like angled shuriken attack. And he had didn't he have like a jump kick kind of thing?
He switched it up. It didn't. It rotated patterns.
Yeah, you definitely didn't want to be in the air with him for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially because at first when he would only throw one shuriken, that would be you could avoid that. But then later on, he would just throw multiple, and you would just get hit regardless. Like you just couldn't be in the air.
So we move from there to District 3, which is the military base, and Scene 1 here is the airport compound, and the manual blurb for that is Neo-Zed infantry patrol both inside and outside, accompanied by vicious attack dogs. And this is a really fucking cool stage, too, I think. There's a huge metal fence. This is the first one you get with the dual planes. So it's a huge metal fence running the length of it with rifle-toting and bomb-chucking soldiers, as well as a flamethrower-enabled Rambo dickhead. It's on both sides. And sometimes they're behind sandbags, kind of like that stereotypical military stuff. And they're on either side of the fence, and their fire doesn't hit you, and you can't frag them if they're on the other side of the fence. So like the duality of the planes is applicable to both you and the enemies, and you have to jump up over the top of the fence to the other side if you actually want to interact with whatever's on that side of the fence. So and on top of that, so there's also brick partitions separating sections, so you can't just cruise on the back side of the fence. The freeway one, same thing. They introduced things that like forced you to use, like you couldn't just cruise. Like you had to use the duality thing whether you wanted to or not, which is pretty cool. I think that forced you into that. Yeah, it's hectic as fuck, man. It took me a lot of runs to get through without getting lumped up on the stage. Like I
wow.
Sure.
I actually flew through this one because I use the lightning. Like I use lightning accidentally on this one, and I can't. I think I was like I paused it to like talk to the kids or something, and I came back and like accidentally just like pressed the wrong button. I was like, I used it, but then I just nuked it. So I really don't have much to say about this stage.
Really? How many hits would you say? Because it's not in the manual, and I never sat and counted. And honestly, it'd be tough to count even if you were trying to, because there's no real hit detection.
It's damage. I feel like it's damage based.
It is. No, yes, it's not time based. Yeah, it says in the manual that it's a certain number of hits. But I'm saying how many hits do you think it is? What's your guess?
But that's what I mean. I think like even if we assign a random value and say each hit is like 5 points, right? Then it's probably like call it 25 points because like a boss can hit you twice and then it's like gone versus like you got to get hit several times by these guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it might be like 30 points maybe type of thing where you got to hit like 6-7 times with some like small attack before it goes away, because you can get hit a lot and make it through most of a level, but you get hit by a boss like 2 times maybe depending on what they hit you with, and then it's gone.
Yeah, that seems like a good guess. I'm on board with that. Yeah, maybe this is worth talking about too now. I know we got into it in the text message about this topic, but I thought how far was I in the game where I still thought that? I was at the gym. That was like 2 days ago at the gym. So I was probably 4 or 5 maybe, where I still thought that you could use the ninjutsu once every scene, not district.
Oh.
District for all 3 scenes. I thought you had one in each scene, and I know I did it. My only guess is that perhaps
You picked up an extra one.
Yeah, I had been picking. I am pretty thorough with getting every box and thing. So I probably that could very well explain it. But yeah, I was under the impression up until pretty late in the game that I had more access to those than I thought. So it's funny to me that you knew and felt otherwise. Maybe that's why you knew and felt otherwise, though, because you were so adamant about using. Like I barely used them at all for the first. I don't know. I'm sure I used them once per district, but I was under the impression I could use them more than I could. So it's funny to me that you're saying that you fucking relied on it so much or used it so much, and you knew that you could, It's like I don't know. If I'd have known that, I'd have been more hesitant. I guess what I'm getting at here is if I'd have known that, I'd have been more hesitant to use them because I've talked about it a million times. Like if I feel something that's ultra scarce, I'm ultra conservative about utilizing it because I want to have it available if I need it. And what that usually leads to is just never use it.
That's my thing. Like, just by nature of the fact that we had these special things, and it didn't seem like I was going to have multiple of them and stacked up. I was like, I'm holding off for this. Like, I don't know how the boss battles are going to be. I'm going to save this until the boss. It would only be if I accidentally used it, or you know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure I used the lightning form early on accidentally. Just pressing buttons, and I was like, oh, so nothing's hurting me. Like that's good to know. I'm gonna definitely save that for the boss. You know what I mean? Like, so I just naturally did that, and then only because you were texting me, and I was like, what? Let me try it. I'm like, nope, definitely don't have another one. Like, I don't know what he's talking about.
That's funny. Yep. A lot of ambiguity with the ninjutsu. So scene 2 is the cargo jet, and the manual blurb for that is you're a menace as a stowaway. So more ninja type shit there. And you're in a big cargo hold of a jet plane, and you can see, this is really cool too, you can see there's parallax scrolling clouds and blue sky whipping by the windows in the background, which it's interesting this cargo hold has this many windows, but yeah, you can see the sky whipping by, so just
dude, I hated this one. I couldn't appreciate any of the freaking sky. You had time to appreciate the sky, Josh? Like, I was too busy pulling out the freaking doors. Like this.
I mean, I had that happen to me unexpectedly.
So many times.
The first time I had it, but I mean, I immediately recognized I needed to never walk in front of those. Like,
but that's the thing. But it would be like Ninja Gaiden, where I would get kicked, and like I'd be nowhere near the door, jump past it, something that off screen that I couldn't see would shoot me and knock me backwards, and then the door would open. And I was like, so many times.
I was very, the second that happened, which it might have been the very first one, because you just don't know. There's no way to know. And that's a perfect example too. Like, I don't know. You as a developer, if you have, again, if you have a finite number of lives, continues, etc., and that's just gonna, that's such a scarce resource in this game if you don't have save states. Like, you need to start that level and show a guy getting whipped out of it. You know what I mean? You need to have an NPC walk in front of that, coming towards you, and get whipped out of the door. So you as the player know you shouldn't do that. So yeah,
it's a shock first time that happens.
Yeah.
You're like, oh
yeah, like what the fuck? How broke are these doors? Or they're just whipping open? Like, what the fuck? yeah, fucked up. But the first time it happened, thereafter, I was like, that was my chief concern. This level, like, no way, like nothing mattered more than not being in front of one of those doors. So, and I was able to traverse it with that focus still. So, and I honestly don't feel like this one was terribly difficult for me. I'm not sure I died other than the time I got whipped out the door the first time. I'm sure I probably died a couple more times, but
I just kept getting pelted by multiple guys. It seemed like there would always be somebody off screen I couldn't quite see, multiple levels, and something would happen where I would be trying to get over the hole. I don't know what it was. Yeah. This level.
Yeah, that's really shit plane design for sure. So that in addition to that, you have some verticality in play here. You have to change floors via these automatic elevator lifts, and you're working your way around and over crate mounds as you deal with the same soldiers that are in the prior scene. And luckily, and seemingly a safety-minded decision, there are none of those flamethrower guys here in this confined piss missile rocketing through the sky. So it was nice that those dudes were not. It was just normal soldiers with bullets that you have to deal with. So that's nice.
That's right.
Yeah. So you get through there, and the boss arena here is the computer bowl, which sounded to me like the kind of place that might have a mainframe when I noticed it in the manual. And the blurb for this is find the computer and blow its brains out. And that's fucking 80s. It's just 80s. There's two huge horizontally tracking lasers mounted on the ceiling in this arena, and there's a big metal tank it takes up maybe like the right third of the arena that it like pushes this thing out, like expands kind of on this tracks, the left side of it, and then once that comes out, and that'll damage you. You can't be standing there, and that'll actually hurt you if you stand in the way. Once it pops out, one of those. I almost want to ask you how. I almost want to ask you how you would describe this first before I prompt you. How would you describe it? How would you describe this, Jay? How would you describe
it's like I was almost gonna say Kang brain, like from Ninja Turtles. Like, it's like brain in a tube.
Yeah, suspended animation tank is what I wanted to call it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just like it's literally like one of those. It's like is that Futurama where they have all the president's heads and the things it's just like that. So it's like this glass bubble, and inside is surely some sort of substance with a lot of bubbles in it, like very oxygenated substance, and it's just nothing but a brain and a spinal cord. And maybe in some sci-fi movies it would also have the eyes still, but that's the vibe for sure of this thing. It's just a brain, and it's in a little glass tank, and it pops up, and when it pops up, you have to hit it, and then it'll only stay up for a second, and then it'll go back down, and the thing closes again, and you have to ask yourself, why would it ever pop up? What's
what are we doing to make it pop up?
Other than presenting a target for a video game, boss, what is this doing?
You're not stepping on. If you were stepping on something on the floor and making it pop up, or like something that would make sense,
Yeah, but there's no prompt. It just does it periodically. So yeah, interesting. So yeah, it's one of those bosses, and this is kind of the way this kind of boss is like a machine thing, as opposed to some sort of animated entity, and you're dealing with more of like environmental hazards that are surrounding this kind of almost static boss. It's kind of the thing with a lot of these, I think. But I don't think there's any not cheese way to battle this fucking thing. There's no just being good at it and flying around and avoiding the lasers and shooting the thing when it pops up. I don't think that's possible. I'd be curious to hear how you dealt with it, actually, because there was only one way I thought that would be possible to actually beat this thing.
The way I beat it is not the way that this person on this playthrough is beating it that I have, and so I actually
turned my video on.
I actually ended up going to the back of it and standing on the back at the very back of the screen. And so that last laser will get you if you stand back there, but I would essentially go to the back, it would come, shoot its beam, I would stand over, and I would just move back and forth just enough and shoot that brain. Yep.
Yeah, there's little, it's worth saying that they're just, it's two tiny little, the platform to the left, and we're talking maybe 2 Musashis, maybe only 1.5 Musashis of width for each of the 2 platforms, and the one is a little higher. So you can't just walk. You do have to do your little bullshit hop, which adds a little bit of challenge to that. But yeah, I did the same thing. I figured out maybe 2 or 3 tries into it that was the way to do it. And even then, it still took me much time because
it took a while.
Yeah, it takes so many, because you also have, and this is another thing, the fucking attack stuff, dude. You have to, because you're moving back and forth, and you have to jump, so you can't stay crouched. So you have to, in the time that it pops up and still timing between those laser beam moves, you have to jump up onto that second platform, crouch down, and throw a shuriken. If you throw your shuriken standing up, it's not going to hit the brain. So you have to jump up, then crouch down, and attack. And again, your dude is moves so ploddingly. If you don't space out each one of those things enough, it fucks it up. And you
but I didn't have to jump when I was up there though. I just stayed at the back of it. So you jump to get back there. You can get hit on the way up there, but if you get all the way to the back to where you're up against the wall, you can just move back and forth. You still have to avoid the beam still every time and shoot,
Just
but you
on
can
that
just
one platform?
scoot back and forth. Yep,
I didn't,
all the way to the back of it.
I didn't
Yeah.
gather that. I was moving between the two, the higher platform and the
I
lower
I
one.
had to just if you just stay all the way to the back, yeah, that last beam, it can definitely get you, but you still have to move back and forth. You still have to be crouching and not get blasted and still get, it's still
Okay.
that's just like the safest place I could find.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was
Yeah.
too hard to be.
So yeah, I was, yeah, like I said, I was jumping to I mean, they're right there. I think, I mean, I'm not sure exactly, we're not saying the same exact thing, but like you did have to jump to get to the one.
Yeah, I had to jump to get back there. Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm saying the two. It's like once you get past, it's like that. That's like I feel like they put that second laser there only for that purpose, because the other one moves across the rest of the room basically, and like that back one only covers those two little platforms that are
Yep.
to the right of the thing, right?
So
Yeah.
if you're on the farthest one to the right, it'll still get you. You just can scoot back and forth. There's enough space on
On
that
that
platform.
one platform? Oh man, no,
Yep.
yeah,
Back and
I did not trust that at all. I was jumping to the higher.
I think I was just jumping and doing the jumping shuriken thing once, and I was like, let me just see, because I was tired of dying trying to be in front of it, and I just found it. I was like, okay, this kind of works if I can just
Well, no,
scoot
it'll
back.
go to that second one, but it was enough playroom where you could time it
Yeah,
out. Yeah, yeah, like yeah, it takes so many fucking hits on the thing that it's one of those instances of like if you did it, like if a computer was doing it, or if you could be computer-like and just do the same thing every time, you would never get hit. Like there's no randomness to it at
right.
all. Like it's totally predictable. You can, as long as you time it and do it the right way, there's no risk at all. But as a human being, when you're doing something that takes this long to stay
Repeatedly.
to stay focused and do it that same way every time is truly the difficulty in it, and that's always funny to me because yeah, it's just I don't know, it makes the frustration, it compounds it because
Yes.
you are literally the only reason it's happening is because you let yourself zone out, really.
I slacked on the moment. I should have stayed focused there. I thought I
Yeah.
could do it. I tried to get an extra one in. I knew I shouldn't have.
Exactly. Yeah. You either that. Yeah. Either losing focus or yeah, getting cowboy and be like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna get two in this time," and like get fucking tagged like fuck. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's funny. So yeah, it took a long, dude. I mean, I'm not joking, dude. Like 7 or 8 minutes, I think, of doing that, of that exact loop. I think it took me to kill this dude. So yeah,
So much time.
so much patience. Yeah, that is a
See,
long ass boss
and,
battle.
and this is why I question the use of the fire ninjutsu at all. Because if it is like if this is damage based and not like number of hits based, you would think that fire thing would cut the time of killing these battles like so much. But it doesn't. Like I would use that and it would still take me a long time to kill things. So I'm like, why don't
Yeah.
I just like put the thunder form on and try to get as many like up close hits in as possible? Because it's going to take me 12 minutes to fight this boss.
Like I said, I mean, I think I literally only tried it like maybe twice, dude. Like, there's just no way to. Again, because there's so little feedback, and that's honestly, talking about just like these like almost subconscious frustrations with this game. Like there's not enough feedback. Like you don't know when you're doing damage a lot of times. There's not enough of a feedback visual. So yeah, it's just there was no way to tell if it was working or not, if it was more effective or not. And like I'm not gonna trial and error
Yeah.
kind of thing. I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time figuring that out. Like I'm just gonna not use it, and that you should never feel that way about a video game.
Yeah.
By the way, I just finally turned my playthrough on and I'm watching he's going through that first dojo house in 1-2, and there is a bamboo thing coming up out of what is eventually the foxhole you have to jump down. So that's how they done
Makes sense.
Word. So moving on from the Krang thing, we have District 4, and this is Detroit, and it's just, I don't know, it is very late 80s for Detroit to be in this game, I think. You would never, I don't know, Detroit would not be, just wouldn't be, just wouldn't, unless it was like the joke for it to be Detroit, but like the idea of you, like they have LA, they have New York, and they have Detroit. Like, like
I did not think of Detroit like that. I was like,
no, I mean, at the time, the thing was, at the time, I mean, it was the very tail end of it, which is why RoboCop was made. It's like that was like literally the very end of the crash, or the really beginning of what was, what became the real crash of the Rust Belt, and particularly Detroit, the automotive industry in general in the U.S. So, it's just like especially because things traveled slower back then. As a Japanese developer, Detroit was probably still like a thing, to a foreigner that was like thinking about big important cities in the U.S. But here, it was already dying, and it's funny to me that it's here. In any event, scene 1 is the junkyard, and the blurb reads, "The junk in this yard is deadly." And we have like a really shitty, dilapidated, and that's kind of the funny thing too, that they included it, but it is like, and I guess it's the junkyard, so maybe that doesn't mean the whole city's fucked, but like, it looks like shit. It looks like fucking shit. So like, it's almost like it is acknowledging that Detroit's a shithole, but still thinks it's important enough to include in the 3 American cities that, alongside in New York and LA. And again, if they're all like, I don't know, if they're all kind of just random, like Tucson and like fucking Des Moines and then Detroit, like, okay, but like to have New York, LA, and Detroit as your 3 is just ridiculous.
Well, I think it just has to do with what they were going with, right? And they're going with a junkyard with the background is all these cars, and this is the level where I was confused which car I needed to stand on because there's so many of them. But like, I think it's because they wanted you to just be jumping on all these cars. They're like, what place has the most cars? Well, Detroit, that's Motor City. Like, that is.
No, sure,
you know,
yeah, no,
like,
yeah.
So maybe it wasn't so much like Detroit sucks, but like this is the car place. This is where we need to be.
Right, this is a junkyard, right? It's just very possible.
Like there's going to be a bunch of cars here for sure. We can definitely use that.
Yeah. So you have the shitty dilapidated brick wall, and then there's also an elevated interstate bridge in the background, which is a pretty cool touch. And again, just hyper focused on automotive shit. And there, yes, are junk cars everywhere as your foreground obstacles. And there's enemy-wise, there's pretty much just the same soldiers and flamethrower cats we've been seeing prior to this in 3.
But I feel like this is where the bombs increased. All of a sudden, like on this level, there was just like multiple boxes in a row of just bombs. You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to avoid everything at this point. That's how I started to feel on this level.
Word. So yeah, this is actually the very first time I tried the self-destruction ninjutsu. I got a little note here, and seemingly did nothing for me.
Why did you try it here? Just like randomly fighting?
Because I was gonna die, and I was like,
gotcha.
it just occurred to me, like that's the time to use it is when you're gonna die, So the motor mill is scene 2, and the blurb action here reads, engine blocks and ingots. That's how you pronounce it, right? Ingots. They want that to rhyme. Yes. Engine blocks and ingots plunge from the ceiling, and you have to rock out with the jump ninjutsu right from the jump here to get over the huge pit at the start. This is where I'm saying, Jay, what the fuck do you mean you didn't use the jump ninjutsu? You have to start the stage. Like, it's a huge gap.
I don't know if I did, man. I think I fell later and I came back and tried it and I was like, okay, I made it across.
It was like,
did I use it there?
Yeah, it's like a massive pit, dude. And
I remember it. I'm like, did I accidentally? I mean, I know I one time used it. I don't know if that was like the time that I made it through, but I definitely used it here. Like, okay, well, if there's any point for me to use this now's the time to use it.
I felt like it was a requirement. Not that significant, I suppose. In any event, there's compacted steel blocks dropping from above all over, and they explode when they land. There's tiny moving platforms, like the hooks, basically, that you have to ride across pits with. And there are Mario 3 airship fire blasters all over the place. Like, literally, those things, all I could think of when I saw them was Mario 3. And this came out before Mario 3, too. And yet another, just the Chun-Li thing. What was the other thing we just thought of? There's so much trailblazing in this game. Kind of wild. And there's, I would say, just generally speaking, there's a lot of like tiny surface platforming in this level. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, even the hook thing. Like I was staring at the hook going back and forth. Died a couple times trying to grab it. I was like, how come I can't hang? Like, what do I do?
I thought
I accidentally landed on it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, it would have been so much more ninja for him to hang from it, I think. But
right? I'm like, it won't hang. Do I jump and press up? Like,
right? Yeah.
Like.
It's funny. It's programmed by video games. I think that's like that is how an old school video game dealt with hanging from something. Hold on. You just know that. That's fucking crazy. So this level is fucked, dude. I hated this level. This level was really hard.
Really?
I had a hard time here.
I struggled at the beginning, but then once I got the hang of it and feel like realized the hook thing, it was pretty easy for me. I just kind of like, yeah, went high and just kept jumping across.
Saves got my ass off, man. Those, like, I remember there's the one part where you're trying to jump up onto the thing, and there's fire blasters right in the fucking platform you need to get to, and like you can't even see them until you're already in the air. It's just like this. This is. I think this might have been the first one where I was like, I'm safe scumming every fucking 2 inches.
Like, this is a jumping shuriken level always. Like every jump is like I'm doing a double jump and throwing shurikens. I don't care what's below me. I'm throwing them. Like that's if I'm not trying to land on the hook or something, I'm throwing shurikens.
Well, if you do survive it, which, like I said, it took me a while to accomplish, but you reach the boss arena, and this is the side yard, and it looks very much like the junkyard visually. But the blurb reads, the master attacker gets really mad, and it does something to his blood pressure. And I can't decide whether I think the master attacker is a good or bad boss name. I'm not sure. It's either really funny, and it's like the final boss's name is the boss. Which again is like, is that just lazy or is that clever? I don't know. I'm not
it's
sure.
lazy considering who it's supposed to be. I mean, come on now. I was getting freaking Incredible Hulk vibes for a while. I'm like, are they just trying to make him Incredible Hulk? And then until he changed, and I was just like, I'm done. What are we doing? Like,
so yes, it is a junkyard, just like the first one, as I mentioned. And Master Attacker is 100% an Arnold Schwarzenegger knockoff for sure. He's got the sunglasses. He's shirtless. He's got the high top deal going on, and he picks up full cars and compacted junk boulders, and he chucks them at you. He'll also do a charge attack with a force field effect on the front of it. And when I first fucking started this battle, dude, I was like, this fucking dude is invulnerable at all times. Like, I could not figure out a defense down moment to get anything going with him. And yeah, I mean, I had a really hard time fucking. I had to look up a video. This is the first time I looked up a video.
Really? Oh man. Yeah. I noticed like once he's vulnerable, once he throws it, and there's that moment where he's like, in the animation, then you can hit him. But then after that, he does the dash. So yeah, it just.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so yeah, I watched the video. And I'm like, okay, you can get in close and melee attack to him when he's holding an object above his head. That makes total sense. So like, turn the video off, go back to war. And I go in there and I start battling him again, and he does the charge thing, and it's like, I didn't clock that it was a calculable 2 times that he would do that. So like, if you don't know that, you're just assuming it's random, and you're like, there's no way to deal with that other than getting the fuck onto that little block higher level. It's the only way to really avoid that if you think that he's just going to keep doing it. So yeah, I had to like go back and watch the video again and notice that it was only 2. And then I was like, oh, okay, so I just got to get the fuck out of there and then come back in. So yeah, this dude, I had a surprisingly hard. Once I knew how to do it too, I was like, fuck, this guy's easy as shit. But
yeah,
totally. Might have been the easiest boss if you know how to do that. Just like as far as like what's required of you physically, but figuring the little sequence out and what everything about it was not easy for me at all.
I feel like that was the key to all these bosses. Like there were several of them that like most of them at first I'd be like, what do I do? Like, what am I doing here? And then I would figure out where to stand and exactly when that moment was. Then it's like, okay, now I got it. Right. But like figuring that out often took a while.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those. The Brain is, of course, one of those. The Godzilla one is one of those.
Yeah, that one took me a while to figure out where to stand. And I was like, oh, there's a ledge. Oh, okay, it blocks this fire. Oh, I mean, okay.
Spider-Man and the Vampire don't. Like, you got to just battle them, I think. I don't think there's a cheese.
Spider-Man pissed me off. My God.
Yeah. We'll get there. yeah. So, yeah, well, once you figure out how to fucking actually deal with him, he turns progressively more green and Incredible Hulk-like as you do damage to him before his human flesh falls off entirely and reveals that he is a cyborg mechanical skeleton, which was pretty cool. And then it just, once he turns into that form, you just whack him one more time and he blows up and he's dead. And toast, that's pretty...
It was funny. I didn't recognize that at all. Like when I was fighting this guy at first, I didn't really think of him as Arnold Schwarzenegger first. I was just like, okay, shirtless, muscle, bad dude guy. And then he was getting green, obviously, and I'm like, all right, they're going for Incredible Hulk. Like, who am I fighting? But the minute he turned Terminator, I was like, Terminator! I hit the lightning form. And it was like, oh, now you're dead? Come on now. Like, why are you dead now?
Well, the fact that you called it Terminator and not a cyborg is its own statement on that IP.
Or,
but Jay, I got another fucking mind blower for you. Well, I don't know. I mean, the first one's out, so no, this isn't work. But Terminator 2 wasn't out for another couple of years too. So they would have had to been biting off the first Terminator to be biting off Terminator here.
When the first Terminator?
The first Terminator comes out in like '84 or something. So it's been,
Okay.
but that's what I mean. It's like so long ago. It's like weird to be pulling it as a reference. I mean, Schwarzenegger remained, only got bigger, of course. So, and that's of course one of his more iconic roles. So maybe it stays in the zeitgeist enough to warrant this kind of thing. But you would think you would think referencing Terminator in a video game
would be Terminator 2.
Right, exactly. Yeah, sure. So but it was not out yet. So get another instance of that preemptive IP stealing. Like fucking
They knew. Knew.
Yeah, they just knew shit that was going to get big. After these messages,
we'll be right back.
Genesis brings you the dazzling powers of the Mystic Warriors, the Ninja, in Revenge of Shinobi. And 16-bit arcade racing action with Super Monaco Grand Prix. 16-bit arcade combat, skills, strategy, reflex, and rivalry. Experience the ninja magic of Revenge of Shinobi and the exhilarating rush of Super Monaco Grand Prix for the Genesis system. Sega Genesis brings the arcade experience home. Genesis system and game sold separately.
That was a combo commercial for both the Revenge of Shinobi and Super Monaco GP on the Genesis. And there is a number of gameplay footage instances intercut with some rather unimpressive live-action cinematography.
Right? Like, come on, ninja dude.
yeah, of guys that are clearly not ninjas, but nonetheless dressed like them, fighting at maybe half speed, which, funny enough, is maybe more in line with Shinobi than I maybe thought when I first was watching that commercial back at the very early on in my playthrough. Maybe it is more applicable and reasonable. They chose that speed choice for them, but it's coupled with some Formula One racing live action stuff as well. That is just as unimpressive, I would say. I'm sure they were doing the best they could, though. The actors, the live video, right. The video production team, Sega, everyone involved. I'm sure they were trying very hard at making that. But we are moving into District 5, area code 818 in the Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis playthrough here. And yeah, man, I cannot believe this is the staging for LA. I fucking love it. I just can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Fucking area code 818. I just cannot fucking believe it. It's so weird to me. Scene 1 is the laser scraper, and the blurb for this reads, "Hop up to the top for an incredible experience." And it is a snazzy skyscraper that it actually reminds me, I don't know, and this is again just like a harking back, like how fixated am I on RoboCop, man? I don't know. But it reminds me of the OCP headquarters in RoboCop. The fucking the tower, it just has that same, I don't know, look, vibe to it, whatever. But the stage itself, you're climbing vertically again, of course, being a skyscraper. And there's more soldiers, there's lasers everywhere, tracking both horizontally and vertically, and you have to use the vertical ones as platforms too, on top, having to avoid them. And you can drop down through the ground on any level by hitting down and A, like a lot of video games. The problem with that is, in this fucking level, you have to crouch all the fucking time. So, inadvertently, you are dropping down to the next level when you don't want to be, and it's fucked. Super fucked.
That happened to you a lot? That never happened to me.
A fucking ton. Oh my god, it happened to me so much. Maybe I use my crouch more as like a defensive tactic. I don't know, but yeah, so many times on this level. So many. This was a very not have a fun experience on this level.
I actually flew through this level. I don't know. I had nothing to say about this level. I just kind of jumped. I also like jumping puzzles and like games where you're having to just jump a lot. So to me, I was like surprisingly reliable, made it through pretty quickly. Like first, second attempt.
That sequence of words is like gives me a bad feeling. Just a lot of jumping.
In this game, yes, but I kind of flew through. It was more the next stage that we come upon, which I hated.
The next one is tough. So the next one is scene 2 is the freeway, and the blurb for this is no place to play. And yes, you start here. You're on some scaffolding on the outside of a freeway bridge, and it's just like the airport one with the fence, one of those stages where you have to somersault back and forth between the two planes, right?
But way worse than that one.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's whereas the airport one did not have, there's no environmental hazard. This one, the freeway itself, has an environmental hazard in the form of cars whipping by. The red one, and specifically, can hit you. Basically, it's nearest to the thing, so to the rail or whatever. So yeah, the background is just, it's a bunch of cars speeding by. There's also pedestrians walking back there, where they look like, I mean. What they should have done here, and I was disappointed in them, is that some of them should have aggroed, some of them not. You know what I mean? Like it should have been, you should have not known whether they're dressed like nuns, I guess, and you should have not known which ones were going to be the ones that were going to attack you. But in this case, they all attack you. They all turn into, after they walk past you, they turn into, from this nun character into, I don't know, what the fuck are those, like women,
like Electra figures.
Electra, yeah, Electra's a good analogy. Yeah, they're like a lot, very scantily clad leather, tight-fitting
leather fighters.
Yeah, a lot of knives, a lot of jumping, acrobatic stuff going on.
But it's funny to me, like I didn't even clock the whole nun thing. Like that to me was just, I knew that they were coming at me. Like I knew that the next enemy was going to be jumping from there, you know? And it was enough to try to focus on fighting them, because I would rely so much on that jumping shuriken throw. But here, if you do that, you automatically go to the other level. And so there, I just several times just trying to kill one enemy on one plane, accidentally flip to the next plane and die. It's
So it's worth noting, like my biggest thing with this was the car. The car was such a bitch, and it is, I think, anyways, it's timeable. You know, I got around to saying about 6 seconds is what I wanted to say, and like, you know, like I got so frustrated that I was like, fuck this, and I'm gonna sit and just look at it for a fucking couple minutes and like try to time it out and like get that in my head and approach the stage that way. The thing is, man, like there's so much shit going on. There's a few times in this game where they want you to do that. They want you to have an internal timer going on.
Yep. Like it's about, okay, a couple seconds, a green car, the next one's red.
Yeah, and dude,
anticipating.
Yeah, I think I have a reasonable processing capacity from brain fucking whatever standpoint, and there are games where I can do this. Like it's not like I've never been able to do this in video. I can do this in this game. Like, and there's just too much shit going on. Like dealing with the nuns and shit. I could not maintain a count on that car, and also deal with the red chicks.
Especially with the guy throwing like
the bombs and stuff,
TNT from the other plane too. Then it's like, that's why it's more of like a general timer. You got to know, it's like, okay, I had a red car, the next one in a couple seconds is going to be green, and then after that I know another red one is coming. So you just got to be like, all right.
Well, the thing is, what I was getting to with that though. So if you don't have an exact calculation on it, you're gonna want to you instinctively are gonna go, oh, I need to somersault to stay up here a little longer. And if you do that, you're flying back across the thing, you're probably falling in a pit, you know? And it's like the perfect storm of like too many variables. There's just too many variables in this stage. Yeah, man, I 100%, like, even after I was pissed off at this for a long time, I fucking stopped playing, came back. I did the car timer thing, all that stuff. And even with all that, I was like, fuck this. I'm literally save scumming on every single platform. Yeah, I'm literally save scumming every single time I advance forward.
I was very excited to get past this part. Very excited.
Yep. Yeah, this was... yeah,
it's brutal.
Absolutely fucking... Yeah, this is the worst, most full of shit video game level I've played in quite some time. I fucking hate it so much. I wrote that down on my notes.
Like, there were times when everything was going well, and I would just be getting to a part of the level that I hadn't got to yet, and I would just do a flip to try to just move over, and I'm like, oh, there's not a platform on that part, and you're just like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, or something silly like that, and I'm like, back again.
Incredibly difficult and incredibly punitive level. From there, you move on to the high-speed chase boss arena. This is described in the manual as your worst nightmare. And like I was, incredibly excited to be going into this, coming out. Like, it's literally anything other than what I was just going through in life. Like, down for it, And even with that, I still expected it to be hard and harder, I should say, But it's actually not too. This is not too fucking bad.
This is not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn easy, actually.
Yeah, pretty benign. Yeah, so it's you're on some vehicle. I guess I don't know what is this thing? A fucking truck? I guess it's a truck. It's
like a truck, super long truck.
Yeah, and actually, and like I had no idea what I was looking at when I was playing, but now looking at it's on the play video, conveniently, and I think it's like a truck carrying a missile or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Something nefarious.
Something very long and nefarious. So yeah, so it's this big huge truck speeding down the highway, and you essentially there's 3 sensors that pop up over the course of it that you have to hit a bunch of times to kill, and once you kill all 3 of them, the thing blows up. But there's also a blue electrical charge that's traveling along intermittently the entire surface of the level, basically, intermittently, over and over and over and over again. And it's like I'm looking at it now.
And there's missile fire as well.
Yeah, there's like little guns on the edges of platforms and stuff. But I would say maybe every 2 seconds ish, the blue things are traveling apart from each other. So you're dealing with that throughout the level. And the first 2 are because they're 2 seconds is a reasonable amount of time to space out. So the first 2 sensors, you're kind of just jumping and avoiding those, and then doing an attack, and like you can get through those pretty easily. You get to the third one though, and it's right at the firing point of the blue charge going along the ground, right? So even if you know that 2 seconds, it's just you have less time to see it.
It is quicker.
Yes, yeah. It's quicker, yeah. Even though the timing doesn't change, but it's quicker. That's funny way to put it, yeah, for sure. So so that one you're dealing with instinctively timing when those things are going to come flying out of that hole and getting an attack on the sensor that's popping up and down, And that's, we didn't say that either. The sensors don't just stay up if they pop up and down. So, yeah, and other than that, there's no enemies though. There's no environmental bullshit. So it's still pretty easy. But the third one, without a doubt, I had some fuck.
It's funny too, because the middle one, if you positioned it on the platform, you didn't have to move. You didn't have to jump. Like the middle one, you could just sit and just kick it out. Because for some reason, I passed the first one, instinctively, and went to the middle, and I was like, oh, I gotta fight these. Yeah. And I just stood there behind it and didn't have to move. So I killed it. And I was like, oh, okay, that was easy. And so I just moved back to the first one, and that one, I had to jump. So by the third one, I was like, all right, this is cake. And then, of course, that one took a little bit more time.
Yeah. I don't think I clocked the second one didn't require jumping. I'm pretty sure. So I think, you're dealing with
in the back of it.
Yeah, the second one, you're also dealing with that fire thing, too, I think. I think there's a fire thing.
Yeah, it on the second one, it fires from the front, and the blue thing goes underneath it, but there's like a little ledge thing on the back of it, so you could just stand there and not even have to move. Crazy.
Cool. Definitely didn't clock that. It's like the turkeys and the mummy thing in Castlevania. Just that would have been nice to know.
Just slightly.
Yeah. So from there we move into District 6, Chinatown, and this is when I hadn't noticed the level 8 in the manual because of the formatting thing in the manual. So I didn't even, the fact that I was only 75% done, even here before, with not knowing that there's an 8th stage, was still to me like, how is this fucking not closer to over, man? So so I was just going into it, just thinking about the math of where I was at in the game. I was like, God damn it, this has been fucking a trying experience.
Yes.
So and that is when you pointed out that I had missed seeing the 8th level in the manual, and I got even sadder. So this scene 1 is called the Kung Fu Gang, and the blurb reads, "Gang fighters greet you with lightning kicks and lethal nunchakao." And I'd never seen the word nunchakao or nunchaku. Nunchaku, yeah, before, and I was wondering whether this differed from nunchucks, which is what, again, I watched all the Karate Kids. I know everything about karate. I'd still never seen that. So I quick Google indeed revealed this is just the more proper term for what dickhead 80s American kids that watch Karate Kid call nunchucks, which I guess is just easier to say, which we proved that too just now by sitting here and stammering through poorly pronouncing it. So nunchucks is certainly easier. I wasn't going to any big cities in the late 80s, early 90s that would have a Chinatown district, but this looks very much like the stereotypical portrayals of them in movies of the time. Gremlins, Big Trouble in Little China are the two that come to my mind from my childhood. Yeah. I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm still, and actually, you know what's funny? It's occurred to me while we've been recording that maybe, I just, for some reason, want to say this is probably San Francisco instead of
Really?
New York.
But then why Spider-Man there? Like, was he ever?
Yeah, actually, that's a good.
He's the only thing that makes it like New York. Otherwise, yeah, this could easily be San Francisco. Questions.
Yeah,
questions.
So many questions, so many unanswered questions. Yeah, so we have new enemies here, the gang members, and their fighting stance, the forward hand in particular, makes me think of Snake Style. Right? Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
Which apparently is a Shaolin boxing form. Doing some googling, and as in Wu-Tang Shaolin.
Oh.
Yeah, man, was there anything bigger than Wu-Tang in like 93, 94? Like Enter the Wu-Tang was like gospel in every goddamn kid's pocket 24/7. Certainly in mine. So that's when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's interesting.
Wu-Tang style.
These fuckers, the gang members, do a ton of roundhouse and jump kicking, so they're very kick oriented. And after a couple of those, you meet your first nunchakao cat. And it took some serious trial and error to figure out how to approach these dudes. But like, what was your
experience? Just run up on them and just get them anyway. Like either jump over them and do the spread attack, or just run up on them and just wait for them to freaking stop doing their spin. But they would still hit me sometimes. I didn't care enough to like try to strategize further than that. And I was like, forget you guys. Like
I am trying to conserve life at the utmost. Effort at all times. So yeah, it took me I had to die in the first one a few times before I got a feel for what the thing. Yeah, like what you could like the first thing. It's like they reminded me of the knights in Zelda 2. Like you have this high-low thing going on, and I didn't realize that it was predictable at first. So like I was doing like kind of like the stab and just like working with them until I got a thing seemingly, and then I realized that it was like a perfect alternation between high and low. They did 1 1 1 1 1 1.
Yep.
So if you know that, you can essentially just squeak in a low kick while they're twirling. And that's the thing too. Like I didn't realize that the twirling seemed imposing to me, as if that would do damage, but you can get in there when they're twirling.
That's why I would run up to them and just like I realized I could hit them doing that. Yeah. So it's like, okay,
so that's a perfect example too. If you don't get in because you are presented with this seeming danger that is going to be distance based, I would often not get in close enough, waste a shuriken, and it wouldn't do any damage to him. So just another perfect example of how much that sucks. But yeah, you get in and just low kick him if you got close enough, and you'd have time to run back out while they did their attack. And just 2 of those. So there are also Street Fighter 2 Chun-Li's here, even though Street Fighter 2 isn't out yet for a couple of years. So weird. They do a lot of acrobatic pirouetting and kicking, and they take quite a few hits, I would say. And that's another example too. I'm not sure.
Like 5 at least.
Right, I'm not sure they actually take that many, or if they are just invincible in some part of their animation. I have no way of knowing.
I feel like they do, because it does that little red flash thing. Like that's the only thing that tells me that anything I'm doing is causing damage. That little red.
I think I heard about this via. I don't remember seeing that either.
If that doesn't pop up, I'm not sure I'm doing any damage.
Well, if I noticed that, I'd feel much less strongly about that lack of feedback. But in any event, when you do kill them, they drop to their knees, their arms are crossed, and their dress slit way up the side, showing a little bare ass and thigh, and they remain that way for a long time before disappearing. And like you were asking, I think on the Facebook page, like, well, what's up with that? I'm like, what do you mean what's up with that? It's Japan late 80s. Like how much sex can we get away with? It's like
beg for mercy and then die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So halfway through the stage, I found my first hidden pickup in the entire game. So this is what we're on 5 here. And so when you go up, like when you first start the stage, you go all the way up the building, and then you come back down, just like the next whatever side of it. And at the very bottom, on the light fixture, pixels on the background, if you whacked at that, there was a 50 shuriken pickup, and that was that. Yeah, the first time I found it, and I don't think I saw it. I found another one the rest.
Oh yeah, I got that too. Yep.
Did you get that? Okay. Yep. So I'm curious to know how prominent those are in the game.
I think there was another part later where I found a bunch of cool stuff, and I'm pretty sure I got a bunch of shurikens at that point as well.
Yeah.
So that must have been the only other part. I just know that my shuriken count went from low to a lot. Yeah.
So that's another instance though, like the Ninja Gaiden has those too. I think, like, if you need to just be whacking randomly to find that shit, of course, So the thing is, this game is highly punitive to just be attacking randomly because you automatically throw shuriken. So like, that's just fucked. That's a fucked combination, Like there needs to be, I don't know, there needs to be something different. Like, I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think. I don't recall, but did I use my sword or did my shuriken cue that? Like, I honestly don't know. I think I was randomly whacking at a couple of the kung fu dudes that were there as I was dropping down from above, and that's how I found that. It wasn't like I cleared the area out and I was like, okay, let me try to find some hidden shit now, So like, the only reason I wasn't wasting shurikens to find that one was because of random dumb luck. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bad feeling. Bad feeling to have. The end of the stage here looks pretty damn beautiful. You can hop up. I posted the picture on the socials. You can hop up on that street lamp, the street light lamp post right before the end there, and it's just like the entire frame is filled up with just the skyline background, So just really, it's a very beautiful background stage. Scene 2 is the train, and the blurb action here is you're atop a speeding train, metal poles whiz at your head, and bullets blast by your ears, and you are on top of a public transit train. And it's a really cool touch, seeing the people walking around in the train cars.
Yeah.
That didn't need to be there, that was cool. And eventually you do emerge from the tunnel and go out into kind of broad daylight, and when you're in the tunnel, there's these steel I-beams that are two different levels. One up high that you have to be ducking under, another one that you're going to have to jump over down. They're both on top of the train there. So like,
these to me look so much New York to me. I'm like, this is definitely New York.
Yeah, agreed. And like the idea that it's coming out of a tunnel, like that's like, I don't know, that's like when I think about like, I don't know, rite of passage moments for New York. And like this happened to me before I even lived there, when I was just traveling there for work shit. And the first time you get on a train and your plan is to always be below ground until you get off the train again. And you're sitting there on the train and you're not paying attention, of course, because you're new enough to not be paying attention, or you think you're fucking savvy enough to not be paying attention, whatever your motivation is for that. And then daylight comes out through the windows. You're like, what the fuck? Where am I? And you're like, you're in Brooklyn is where you're at, motherfucker. And wherever you think you were going, you're going to be late to. That's all I can think of when it went outside to me. Is that I vividly remember that the first time that happened to me. Like, that's a memory that will never, like, I have not shaken. That will remain with me, I think, until I die. That the first time that happened to me in New York. So yeah, that's what I
remember always being amazed every time I would go to like an acting shoot or something, like way out in Queens or way out in Brooklyn, like where you knew you were going to be above ground at some point again. You're just like, oh man, so it does go above ground. It's just like, whoa, like there's full-on houses out here in New York. It's crazy.
Completely different world. Still shitty and filthy, but different world nonetheless. So yeah, if you're dealing with those things inside, once you get outside, it's just a few enemies, and like the enemies mostly are just basic bitch shuriken throw ninjas here. They're pretty cake. I would say the actual enemy dangers here, generally speaking, this level I think is pretty easy on their side.
Yep.
Here. There are a few of those machine gun toting bare chest dudes once you get outside, but you just tag those dudes with shurikens from afar. It's pretty much just ghosting.
Pretty nothing.
So yes, they're so excited about their random licensing implementation, they just call the boss arena here Spider-Man. They didn't even bother to name it anything else, and it's even got an asterisk on it in the manual. Like, I just always find, I know they have to, and like the lawyers make them do it, but like, it's just so pathetic to me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to communicate my feelings. It's just like when I see shit like that, it's just like, ugh, like why do you have to do that? Like why? Like it's on the thing in the beginning of the game. you have it at the bottom of the page. That's fine too. But like, why do we have to have an asterisk there? Like, why is this? I don't know. It's just fucking stupid to me. So much of.
But
I don't know. So much of the American. I guess what I'm criticizing here is the American legal system is fucking dumb.
Also that, but why is he in the game? Like, why is he fighting Spider-Man? Like,
we
why?
answered this.
Like,
We answered this because they have that license.
okay.
Yeah, and they're like, they only use, like, my guess, because there's that. It's a pretty good game too that I wouldn't mind talking about and fucking with when we get there. It's like an interesting game. The first Spider-Man on the Genesis, the Black Thatch early Spider-Man. So I played that one. Jab actually had that one, and it's a pretty damn good game. And I think it's the only one they made. So whatever they paid for that, I'm sure wasn't cheap. And Genesis is, Sega is still figuring shit out. They're not kicking ass yet. So every dollar probably counting there. Like, how can we use this very expensive asset we have?
So I gotta say, I like it. I used to read Spider-Man when I was like this age, like at this time. So like I like Spider-Man's inclusion. I just kind of wish, if you're going to give me something, give me some kind of reason, like, oh, Spider-Man thinks you're this, or like, give me a little something.
Yeah. The fact that they didn't acknowledge, no narrative acknowledgement of it is really weird.
Am I an evil ninja now? Like, what is going on? Like, at least do something.
And it's even counter to the idea of, like, the reason you're using it is because it's this valuable IP that you have access to right now. Why not embrace that in the storytelling too? Like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When I saw that they had the license at the beginning of the game, like on the start screen, I was like, "Oh, Spider-Man's in it!" Like thinking you're gonna like narratively tell me like what's going on. But then not only am I fighting him, but when I beat him, he disappears, and another evil creature shows up, which we later learned was like supposed to be Batman, or in the earlier versions is Batman. But either way, now I'm fighting this other devil thing. So I'm like, was Spider-Man evil? Am I good? Like, what is? You explain nothing.
Yeah.
And just throw them.
And yeah, that's interesting too that they originally intended to pair the two of them together like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're not even in the same universe. Those two. Like, come on. One's Marvel, one's DC.
But what I mean is, it like to put them to pair them together in the same boss battle undermines their importance. You know what I mean? Like it devalues them. By having them not get their own like themed boss arena, and it's interesting. A lot of interesting choices there for sure. Right. Sega's fucking weird, man. The only answer is fun but weird.
Zero explanations given. Like whatever.
The
might as well call it Willy Wonka's Funhouse at this point. Throw stuff out there.
Yeah. The blurb reads, "This fellow can really sling a web." Grown. And so you start this thing, you get in here, and he drops down from above. He tosses out a trio of webs you have to avoid, and then will drop down in like an invincible state. He's flashing yellow. He's like straight down on a web string, and he will bump into you if you don't evade him. It is pretty much his entire attack set. And when he throws the webs out, they disperse. Like it's like a spread shot almost that slowly spreads out from each other. So like what I cooked up to be the solution anyways, maybe yours was different, but like I would essentially like literally right from the start, I guess is the best way to put it. Like right from the start, even though he comes down kind of in the middle, but you start off on the left-hand side. So even him coming down on the right-hand side of that first screen, there's still kind of quite a bit of the arena left. So literally right from the start, I would run straight to the other side. So my idea would be to get him to throw his web out and then just keep running from it until you run out of space. And then just by then it had spaced out so much that you could jump over it and you would have enough room to be able to land between the second and the nearest one. And while you were doing that, what happened to be his vulnerable state too, so you could peg his ass with a shuriken. And then essentially just looping that back and forth. It didn't even really take that many hits. I don't feel like maybe 6.
It definitely didn't take that long to beat him. I couldn't really outrun his webs, so I would just get caught, hit left and right really quick, and shake it off, and then I could just peg him with shurikens. Like
I guess it's worth mentioning. Yeah, if you do get hit by that fucking web, it encases your entire sprite, and I don't think you can jump. And I think you have to attack. So I think you have to waste shurikens.
No, I would just hit left and right on the stick, and like he would kind of shake it off. Yeah.
Oh, really? See, I guess I didn't try wiggling. Maybe I didn't try that. But yeah, what I found I needed to do was attack, and he'd be wasting shurikens then, which is annoying. But yeah, it sucks for sure to get hit by the web. So that is your primary focus because you can't attack, you can't jump, you can't do shit if you're in the web, and it takes a few seconds. And if he gets you with the web, you're almost certainly you could. I think if you were webbed, I think, and you're holding straight in the one direction and you're going the right way relative to where he's coming down, you could avoid him still. It wasn't like automatic damage, but it slowed you down and fucked you up for sure to get hit by that shit. So yeah, so you beat him, and like, I had no idea this was gonna happen. So when I beat him, I'm like, okay, fucking beat Spider-Man, great. What's next? And then what I perceive to be Dracula drops in, and I like, dude, in that exact, like, there was that nano instant where I was like, fuck this, I quit. Like, like, what do you mean? Like, what in the fuck kind of boss tag team is Spider-Man and Dracula? Like, how insane is this video game? like in any game, it would be ludicrous, Spider-Man and Dracula. In a ninja game, it's batshit fucking insane.
Dude, you got Dracula. I thought it was just some demon thing. I'm like, what is this? Like, what? Because not only did you beat Spider-Man, but like, you beat him and he just crawls away.
Right.
And then what comes back is this demon thing. So I'm like, what?
It's like a tag team.
Right? And on the version that I'm watching, which is an older school one, when you beat Spider-Man, he actually transforms into Batman with bat wings. So it's like, okay, this is like some weird shapeshifter thing. On the version we get, it's like, you beat Spider-Man, he ran away, and now you have a demon creature. Okay. We're fighting.
Yep.
We're killing.
So this dude, he drops in, and he essentially always has bats coming in from the sides. Usually, I think 4 is the most that you can get on the screen at one time. And so you're essentially, each one of those bats takes 2 shurikens, or maybe if you melee them in time, attacks. I think it's the same amount of damage. Yeah, we've actually never discussed that. Does the melee attack do the same damage as the shurikens, or no? I have no idea.
I feel like it does. I watched a playthrough the only time when I was looking up something and I was pissed off. And it made me question whether or not like the melee attacks did more, but I don't think they do. Okay. My only guess was that what I saw, the person had like a power up, and I'm like, okay, that's the only difference. It's got to be the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't letting them get close to me to find out, but 2 shurikens in my case. So you need to hit him with 2 shurikens. So essentially, you're burning 2 shurikens at a time. These fucking things are always flying at you. And like the trick is, like, it's actually, I mean, it of course took me a bit to figure this out, and I died a number of times doing so. But he has this swooping attack while the bats are coming, and really the only trick is just making sure you're not facing the wrong way, dealing with the bats behind you. Because when he swoops, as long as you hit him as he's swooping, which is pretty easy to do, he has a flashes and doesn't do the damage that he would otherwise do as he swoops through you. So as long as you're timed to be hitting him as he's swooping, you're both doing damage to him and not taking any damage. So not that hard in theory. And then occasionally he would do this dash thing where he would disappear from the screen and then come out from either right or left and then fly back the other way too. And you just got to jump over those 2, so not that hard in that case either. But so not terribly hard, but unexpected, and yeah, it just doesn't make any fucking sense as far as like the narrative goes.
Dude, this was cake for me. This was arranged since when I had 2 power-ups. So I actually this is another accidental use of one of them. So I accidentally used Pulverize on Spider-Man. And like, this is after like dying to Spider-Man a couple times when I was like annoyed. But like, I used Pulverize when I meant to use the electric. Nuke Spider-Man quickly, had another one, and then I would have
guessed that wouldn't even do shit to a boss. That's crazy to hear.
It immediately, like, yeah, he came and then he disappeared. And then the demon creature came. And then I used lightning, the thunder form, and so I was able to just take out.
So wait, so you could stock up on those?
If you had the one that you didn't use, like the one you're with, and then you get like an extra one, then yeah, you can have.
You would have 2. I never gathered that either. I assumed you used it, and if it was depleted, then you could replenish it with pickups. So that's crazy to hear. Okay, cool.
I mean, like I said, that it never happened again. but that's
Right.
like a rare instance, or like one other time maybe.
Word, very cool. We move out of there to District 7, NYC, and you start there at the breakwater, which is a pier, and the blurb reads, "Ninjas and machine gunners guard the breakwater." And the waves crash into the pier look pretty fucking cool here. The animation, the foreground animation. And there's a warship visible in the background. That is probably the USS. What is that in New York? I want to say the Enterprise, but I'm not sure.
Oh man, I forget what it was called. Not the Enterprise. I know the one you're talking about, but it's been too long now.
The one docked
the
at like
one on the freaking west side.
42nd Street, USS something. I'm sure that's what they're intending to portray there. And then there are shipping containers everywhere, some of which say Zed on them. And another cool little just aesthetic thing, there's it's kind of like part of you're jumping from pier to pier. Then sometimes there's instances where there's not any pier, and in the water will be a floating inflatable boat that you have to use as a platform. And that's just it's a cool touch to me. On the enemy front, we have ninjas jumping out of the water here that'll throw shurikens kind of downward, and pretty easy to avoid if you just jump, get them to go up, and then be jumping while they're shooting. They're pretty benign. And there's some of that shit on land too, and then the flamethrower dudes are back as well. And yeah, I mean, this kind of like, it was not a terribly hard level in all honesty. Kind of blew through this one. I don't really have a lot to say about it. You move on to the machine room in scene 2, and the blurb here is, inside the Neo-Z container ship, you try to keep a cool head. And there's a lot of soldiers and a lot of precision platforming in this fucking level. Another one where I was literally just save scumming all the whole way.
Yep. Same. It wasn't hard. It was just kind of like, oh, there's a guy there. Okay, I remember that next time. Like, oh, like that bomb blew me off the edge into the freaking fire.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I won't do that.
It was. I wrote down a lot of cheap damage, a lot of jumping down. You didn't know that thing's down there. You're taking damage. There, the bomb. A lot of that shit here. Fuck that.
Yep.
Save gun. The boss arena is the cargo hold, and the blurb reads, "Look what you discovered, a flame-spewing brontosaurus." And Jay, I don't know how dinosaur focused you are, but this is not a brontosaurus. There's no way in hell for this to be mistaken or called a brontosaurus. A brontosaurus is on all 4 legs, and they have really long necks. And I think actually brontosaurus, if I'm correct, my memory is one of those dinosaurs that was found to be like archaeologists fucked up, and it was like they put some wrong bones together.
Not a real one.
Not an actual run. And like I was Googling this, and like I think I might have found an article in 2015 that said like that finding had been redisproven, and that they were like, so they don't know shit basically, which is not surprising.
So it may thanks guys.
Yeah, but either way, whatever the case, fictional or not, this is not, you can't call this a brontosaurus. Brontosauruses are on all 4 legs, really long necks. This is a reskinned Godzilla, and it is more akin to a T-Rex in body type. Up on hind legs, small legs up front.
Godzilla straight up. Come on.
Right. And yes, as we mentioned, I believe earlier, the reskinning is the removal of its skin entirely. It's just a rib cage and organs beneath that, which is really fucking cool. It's like a really cool thing, but it's just clearly a workaround for their licensing concerns. That would be originally Godzilla, So hilarious choice.
Which really was Godzilla. The version I'm looking at is straight up. I mean, that's Godzilla without the spikes on his back.
Right. Not surprising to hear at all. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have. It would have taken me a minute to figure it out if you hadn't posted that video that I saw of how to beat this dude. But having seen it made it super easy for sure.
I tried it. It took me a little while, to figure it out. Because I would sit there jumping, and I'm like, okay, I can clearly hit it. And if I jump, I can like throw shurikens and hit it. But like I'm taking so much damage, like it took me a while. And I think I accidentally dropped down one time just by pure accident. And then the flame hit the thing, and I was like, "Oh!"
This unlocks everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And like that sweet spot every time, man. Finding that little thing you can get away with. This one is like clear,
Yeah. See, dude, we're talking some shit about this game, but like that little moment you just had there, that's the old school video game holy grail right there. To present you with a problem, and like you have to bang your head against the wall. And that may be frustrating, but when you unlock the fucking door, it's like, oh, and that feeling is fucking cool, dude.
That's true.
This game does not give that to you, as frustrating as it can be at times. So even though we're talking some shit, I do not think it's not a slam dunk for sure to say to not bless this game.
I will say this was the high point, and going to the next level, it takes a dive. My feelings just take
I don't disagree with that. So yeah, you essentially just stand on the left side of the screen, you jump up, and you stay down, and he will shoot his fire into that platform, and then immediately after you jump up, and he'll do his tail whack, and before he gets into the cycle of firing that next fire thing, you got to hit him in the head, and then drop back down quickly. So you just rinse, repeat that, and pretty easy once you know that. So you move out of there and into the final district, District 8, and this is the Neo-Zed Marine Stronghold. And the first scene is the searchlight, and the description in the manual reads, the searchlight picks you out as a perfect target for Neo-Zed gunfire. And they must have, just like I mentioned, I really liked it. They must have also really liked their wave animations, because we're back on a pier for this, using those wave animations. Right. It's now nighttime, though, and it's raining, because nothing adds drama to action cinema like some heavy rain.
Hey, you might slip. Your ninja moves might fail. You might slip and fall in the ocean. This is high stakes, man.
Well, there's nothing more dramatic than a ECU on a ninja sopping wet face, rain pouring down all around him. You just can't get more dramatic than that. So they have some lighthouse searchlight shit going on in the background as well. Although it doesn't really have any, the description reading. I read that description. The searchlight picks you out as perfect target for Neo-Zed, and I kind of expected almost like that. What's the name of that game? Rescue Embassy Mission thing, where you have the searchlight is used, or even Metal Gear 2, where the searchlight is used as an actual deliberate tool to
that you have to escape and avoid
attract damage to you. So I was kind of surprised that wasn't included here. But so yeah, so you have
everything, Josh. They gotta have. They got something.
There's only so many bits on the card. You know what's complete bullshit that I thought of here? The fact that the bombs, the crate ones, don't hurt enemies too. That's fucking bullshit.
I would purposely hit a crate and jump away, take that, bitches.
Exactly. Not only does it suck just in general, but I think it deprives you of a cool strategic thing.
It's just an annoyance. Just that.
Yeah. So yeah, I fucking hated that too. But this stage is so full of shit, they blatantly hand you a heart at the end to fill you up as the absolute last thing before exiting. They're like, we know this stage fucked you. Here's a heart. Literally the very last thing. It's a crate. No, nothing at the crate. I think there might be an enemy right before it. Just one that you kill. But there's nothing there. There's not multiple boxes. One might be a bomb. It's just a lone box heart. And I felt like it was, and this is a question for you too. Were there different amounts, did the hearts have different values? Or did they all give you the same number of life things?
I feel like they all gave you the same amount.
I feel like it. I feel like it differed, and I felt like this one gave me.
But there was the time when I felt like I hit a heart, and it was oh, I have full life again. How did that happen? I don't feel like that was different.
Right. This was one of those instances where I was this is a full heart too. So, yeah, I'm not sure, but that's kind of how I felt about that one. Okay, so you go out of there, and you move into scene 2.
Which is the worst scene ever in a video game created for the Genesis.
So the blurb is, you've made it into the basement of Neo-Zed headquarters, and it looks like an ancient castle cellar, I guess, is the best thing to equate the aesthetic to. And it is a fucking random maze. You have to go in these doors, and you pop out somewhere in the level, and you have no map. You have no fucking clue where you're leaving or arriving at. And, there are marks on the doors, and I'm sure they have some identifying characteristic to them that you are supposed to follow, but it's far too indescript. Any clue what's what? Yeah.
It's just the circle ones meant you could go in them. That's the only thing I got from them.
On the
they're
doors,
some arrow type things, and I was like,
no, there are things on the wall. They're not on the door.
Right, the little arrows and stuff. But you couldn't decipher them, so
exactly,
I was like,
right, yeah, they're too indescript to fucking tell, man. So yeah, it's essentially you're just randomly fucking doing shit. And dude, I've been playing this game on this particular play session for a while, but I'm getting close to the end. So I'm going to stick this out. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to get out of my life. This was yesterday, even probably late afternoon, or maybe it was early afternoon. And when I realized that this was just random shit, and I had to go in these doors, and who knows where I'm going, and who knows I'm gonna get to the end. I was like, the second I figured that out, I was like, fuck this, and I fucking turned it off, and I walked away. Just like the anger, so much anger.
Dude, that's why I sent you the Mariah Carey GIF. That's legit why I was like, I can't even, bro. I can't. This is where I was at.
That might be the greatest single thing said on this podcast ever. That's why I sent you the Mariah Carey GIF.
True, man. I was lost on this level, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I keep thinking I'm making progress, and then I'm back at the beginning. Like,
nothing, man. Like, you cannot do this without a map. You cannot have this in a video game if there's no fucking map, man. You cannot do that. This is not a game that you can. It's not. I don't know, man. It's a different fucking time, a different world. Like,
this is the one thing I looked up. Like, the one time game, I was like, I gotta look up, or otherwise I'm gonna throw this game, and I'm not gonna play it.
Like, I want to, I was almost going to say there, like, you can't expect this kind of action game for me to sit and make a map. You can't do it. You cannot expect this kind of game, the player to do that. But Metroid is a game where you had to make maps or you weren't going to beat it. And it was the exact same kind of play style, So, like, I think we're maybe just looking at that from the fucking wrong time and place perspective. But fucking sucked, man. Yeah, super fucking fucked.
You can't make me have to make a map unless, like, you somehow let me know I'm gonna have to, like, do that. Like, you can't just switch it up.
That's my point. That's the point, though, dude. I think it was a different time, and, like, you didn't have to make all of Metroid, but there are parts where you better be making a map or you're not gonna figure it out. You're not gonna know the backtrack.
And I never played Metroid, so maybe that's the thing.
That's just one example, but, like, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough thing to judge, I think, from my perspective, but. I was pissed off yesterday. So I just had to walk away, leave the condo, and then the moment I realized that, and hours later, last night, I come back and I open the emulator, look at the screen a moment, and I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm just Googling a map. I'm not gonna even try to do this without a map. And, like, I didn't know. I know, like I said, the moment that I figured out I was going through those doors and randomly coming out somewhere that I didn't know, I turned it off. So I had no idea the scope of what this level might be, right? None. So,
and I went through it so many times. I sat there trying and just like, and they're like, okay, I know I gotta move over and drop through this and land on this platform. Something different's gotta happen there. And something different happened. And then through there, I still ended up before. And that's what I was just like, I I'm done. And
right. Yeah.
That's how
So, dude, I immediately, I was just like, nope, I'm Googling a map. Did you Google a map?
This is where I did, yeah. When I was just completely fed up, completely. And it turns out I was, like, close to the end, and I just went too far and went to another door, and that took me all the way back to the beginning.
That would kill me.
So frustrating.
I Googled the map, and I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was the first. It was a game FAQ link. So it's, those, like, that website's pretty old, and, like, every game has already been data, all the shit in there is from years ago. So the one I found was that one I posted, I'm sure you saw. And
that was the same one I found.
Okay, so it's like this ultra shitty GIF version of it, not animated GIF, but nonetheless, fucking it's not even a JPEG. And it's like, it looks like it was made on fucking MS Paint or something. It's like a very, very crude, whatever representation of the level and the doors and the numbers and shit. And so I opened this thing up, dude, and, like, it opened up, dude. Like, dear listener, if you did not see this thing when I posted it, I implore you to go take a look at this jumble fuck of a mess of a map, and follow us while you're at it. Links in the show notes, all those. But tell me how in the hell that any human being figures that out organically. Explain to me how the fuck you figured that out. Like,
I was instantly angry when I saw that map, and I was like, this makes no sense. Like, I had, like, almost like a magnifying glass, like, is this color coded, like, Is this
Right,
where's this
yeah,
thing go?
yeah.
Are there 222s on this map? Like, what is this? Like, I finally figured out because I was like, if I had gone this way instead of that way, I would have actually been at the end. But like, I stumbled and bumbled through the whole thing.
I can't believe you. I
Yeah,
cannot believe you trial and error that. Dude. I can't believe. And like, dude, like I'm a diligent guy when it comes to this pod. I put my nose to the grindstone on some games that were fucking brutal. Castlevania. I played all the way through fucking the first Phantasy Star on SMS in a 2-week window before we knew that an RPG was like an inconceivable thing to put on our recording schedule. Like, I've done some shit that is not sane, really, in all honesty. You know, so the fact that I had my outcome of this and felt this way about it and like whatever, like I Googled, so like I look at that map and I'm like, not doing that. There's no way. There's no way. I'm like, but there's also a part of me like, okay, I'm looking at the map and I'm like, maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Maybe like, because on the map there's 28, I think it was 28 fucking door pairs, right? So I'm like, maybe you don't need to go through all those. Maybe it's like it's a lesser, you know, there's just all those.
There's just a certain ones you got to go.
Exactly. Like maybe it's actually super simple. Before I quit this game, let me do a little extra due diligence. So I Google a video of this level being played through, and the guy I watched play, or whoever watched play, they were invincible. They had some sort of cheat code on. They had 999 shurikens. They had the max lives, and they were invincible. And it still took them a full 60 seconds to go through this level, knowing exactly where to go. Like, not even having to stop. Like, literally just never once stopping. It was a 60-second video. And I was like, I'm not invincible. No fucking way. Like, no fucking way. I wasn't fucking doing it. Like, no fucking way. I fired up a video of the final boss just to see, turn this shit off, and play Demio. Fuck this game. Fuck finishing this game. No fucking way was I doing that level. No fucking way. No way. No fucking way.
Oh my god, dude! Wow, I definitely felt that way. If I hadn't spent so much time and gotten so close and realized at some point I was just like trying to skip doors, like, okay, it's got to be the farther door to go to, because that's how it was like at one point in the middle of that level. But if I hadn't done that at the end and just gone through the next door, there was one more door after that, and I was escaping. So I was like, okay,
you didn't have to go through all 28 doors, right? There wasn't 28, was there?
I didn't have to go through all of them. No, I just kind of knew, like, okay, I got to go through that one for sure, this one for sure, that one for sure, you know. And I'd save stated to the point where I was like in the middle of it, so it was kind of like a 3 or 4 door sequence to kind of get out.
Oh, really? Okay, so fucking.
But this is actually stumbling around where I found a secret drop down and with a bunch of like goodies, like where I got extra shurikens, extra ninjutsu. Like the first time,
They better fucking have that in here. They better have this expansive ass level. There better be some fucking reason to engage it.
this was the worst. Like when I opened this up, I was like, oh man, I hope this isn't a maze. Like 2 hours later, I'm just like, son of a.
Okay, well, that is impressive, Jay. So you did beat it. And then if you do beat it, or you just watch a video, whatever the case, next up is the boss arena, the final one, called the Inner Sanctum, and that's a cool last name for anything, actually, boss arena or otherwise. And the blurb for this reads, here's where you'll find the terrified Naoko, your sweetheart, and face your final enemy, the boss. And that's also a great boss name, I think, the boss. I like that one. That one, whether it's lazy or not, I like that one without a doubt. Still a little on the fence with the master attacker, but the boss to me is great. And it's an all wooden room, hardwood floors, and then like a thatch wood wall floor to ceiling as the background. And behind that wall is your sweetheart, as she's described in the manual. And she's apparently in the path of falling rocks, and she's like running back and forth trying to avoid them back there. And I didn't realize this until I was like Googling the shit at the end of the game. I had no clue leading up to this point that this was a concern. And I'm still not entirely sure if it's just the amount of time you take against the boss himself or the amount of time you take in the game, which if it's the amount of time you take in the game, that should certainly be stated.
No, it's the boss. It's the boss.
Okay. So, yeah, if you take too long to frag the boss, she dies. And you get up. There's 2 different endings to this game, a bad and a good outcome, which is pretty fucking cool, man. Like I did not expect that at all for this. So I thought that was fucking cool. But yeah, you have to beat him fast enough or she dies. Like the rocks actually kill her. So the boss himself, the boss, he's an old dude with it's that thing on the cover, I guess, it's got a serious mane of hair that he can whip off his head entirely and it flies around the room as like a dangerous semi-autonomous projectile that can fuck you up. And he's got a menacing laugh, of course. Yeah, I didn't fight him myself. So Jay, did you fight him?
So disappointed in you, Josh. Yeah, this boss freaking sucks, man. Like
well, that was my thing. Like I knew the boss would be a bitch, and that level was doing that to me. I was like, no, I got to get on with my life, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's why I texted you. Like, I can't wait to finish this freaking game. So, but yeah, I kind of figured out the ducking that you have to do when he swings his old school Kung Fu Master hair. Like, I figured that out pretty easily. You duck and like hit him with a shuriken or something. But then he throws the hair and you just kind of have to jump away. And this is where the jumping again is unreliable, because if you do a single jump, if you can get out of the way sometimes, other times when he throws his hair directly straight across, you have to rely on a double jump to get out of the way.
Well,
and it's kind of that whole thing.
The hair like gets out there and just stops for a bit, doesn't it? It'll just stay
No, it just back. Either throws it fast and it like kind of boomerangs back, or he throws it slowly and it comes back and it changes either angled up or just like directly at you. So you kind of have to always just be immediately getting out of the way and jumping and hoping that you can get out of the way of that. And it's freaking, dude, it took so long. Like I watched a playthrough, and each playthrough I watched, people did it in like 7 hits, and I'm like, they must have power-ups, because I did not get the good ending. My girlfriend, woman, whoever that is, she's dead, because it took me, I don't know how many hits to actually defeat the boss, and she was clearly dead by
I want to say the video I downloaded of the good ending to screen cap that end credit thing that we'll talk about here in a moment, I want to say it was like 6 minutes and some shit. So like even a good ending, the battle is like at least, there's probably some bullshit in there, credits and stuff, but at least still like 4 minutes probably, you know.
I don't know.
So
it took me a while, and I did. Yeah. That's why I'm standing, like, if you can see my screen, people seeing on YouTube, like, yeah, it's just me standing there. There's no woman by my side.
Right. Yeah. So you kill this dude, he dies, and he just like falls off the screen. If she's not dead, your dude walks over and like just kind of like magically makes the lock fall off the door, and she comes out, and like it's like this. it's like really slow how it's like really, I don't know. Like I want to give them some credit and say that they're trying to replicate slow motion, you know, like the slow motion, highly dramatic moment. But what it really looks like to me is just like, it's just like the game being slow and shitty, you know. But yeah, she like slowly comes out, falls in your arms, you hug, and then it slowly, like slowly fades to black, and then some music rips in. And not only do you have different endings and how they look, but you also have like if it's the good ending, you fade from black into this thing, and like we're even before the fade actually, or fade back in, some music rips in. And it fades in a beautiful setting sun over some mountains in the distance, and it does this really cool kind of like tracking shot of like this foreground ridge, stone ridge that tracks along the ridge, and eventually Musashi and Naoko kind of like holding each other, looking at the sun in the distance, kind of tracks from frame left, and then it tracks all the way to position there and to leave them on frame right and stops, you know, and then it just holds on them looking out at that, and then eventually the words "the end" fade in at the bottom left in ornate gold letters. And once the track plays out, which is like a minute long or so, it just fades out and cuts back to the Sega logo. Like there's no credits, there's no bullshit, there's no anything.
There's nothing.
Yeah, which is again very indicative at the time. But if you get the bad ending, if she dies, then she obviously doesn't hug you in the boss arena there. But it does kind of the same thing. Like it fades out after the death. The music rips in, and it's a different music track. It's a bad ending music track, which is like, of course, more somber and less hopeful. And then a similar night scene fades in, and yes, that's what's behind Jay right now, where you have the same tracking thing going on. Her head's not there that whole time. Like, it starts off, you just see the crescent moon in the night sky, and you're tracking along that wall there, and eventually it's just Musashi that appears on frame left and then falls frame right. And yes, he's standing like, I love how like aggro and 80s his posture is, like, revenge will be had.
And before that, like, since when he goes to open the lock, since he just doesn't come out, he just kind of drops to his knees and just like drops his head.
I was actually going to ask. I don't remember why. I was going to ask if there was a different part of that. Yeah. Okay. Word.
Sad.
So yeah, bummer, huge bummer. So yeah, so once you get, he stops there, and then yes, her likeness appears up in the sky there, and yeah, if you're watching, you can obviously see it, but I mean, it's a pretty good like likeness of pixelate for the time. Pretty good art, I think, of an actual human as opposed to fucking video game shit. Yeah, then the end fades in, just like on the good ending, and that's it.
That track is titled Ninja Step, appropriately bringing us in to our blessing section. And Josh, I'm fascinated, bated breath, waiting to hear how you feel about this game.
Yeah. I was digging this early on, man. It's very Genesis-y in all the ways I like my Genesis games to be. The graphics are fucking great, man. So again, especially for early on, Sega Genesis is fucking great. The soundtrack is huge and dope as fuck. Like, ton of great music. And a lot of cool stages and just shit to look at. There's no arguing the amount of time put into this game. It's long. This game is long as fuck, man. It's like
it is longer than I thought, for sure.
Yeah. By no means, my expectation, again, because of when this is in the Genesis timeline, and I expected Altered Beast. I expected borderline Altered Beast with ninja options. That's what I expect this to be, and just so much more than that. The multi-plane levels, like the freeway, are a fucking cool ass idea, and I think just so much pushing the boundaries of what you see otherwise at this time on this system. I don't think there's any other game doing that kind of thing, The boss shit we don't know what to make of it, but it is certainly interesting. Like, it's an interesting choice.
That's true.
It is like I don't know, like it's almost like a really fucking out there artist. Like, you might not understand what I did, but it's not like anything else. I don't give a fuck how you feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing. Like, it's fucking intense. But there's also, of course, which I'm sure we're gonna fucking dwell on a lot in this right now. Like, there's so much frustrating shit about there's so many times when I just felt bad and like negative energy. I just got negative energy playing this game, and yeah, you're gonna get pissed off, especially me. I definitely get pissed off playing video games, and that's part of the fucking process for sure. And I certainly am not gonna, just because of that, say a game's bad. But it wasn't always just anger. It was just like, oh, God, why? Like, why is that? Like, why? That sucks. There's so much control shit. The clunkiness and the unresponsiveness, and it's so counter to the ninja thing that and I don't know. Like, I almost feel like it'd be one thing if it was a failure. You know what I mean? It's almost like if they tried to do something else and it just didn't succeed and it didn't work and it was bad, like whatever. But I almost feel like it was deliberate to make it as slow as it was, and I don't. That was a bad choice. I think that was a really bad choice, and there's plenty of other stuff on this system from this time where that's not an issue, and I can't believe on this title specifically too, because this is a flagship game for Sega at the time. This is a huge franchise for them. So already, even on the second one, it was already a big arcade thing. They already had the first one on the SMS. So and again, all these things we just listed off that are examples of them putting time and effort into it. You're not going to convince me that the controls are just fuck, it's shitty, but fuck it. You know what I mean? You You can't convince me that was the case. So I feel like it was a conscious choice to make it the way it is in that regard, and that fucking sucks. The somersault stuff sucks. There's the fact that you cannot reliably do that in a game where I'm just so reliant on it is fucked. It's extra fucked. And yeah, the end of the game became such a slog. Like, it's such a slog. That aid is so bad, man. So fucking, that maze thing is so fucking bad. And I mean, I never quit on these fucking things, and the fact that all I had to do was see that map, and I was like, no way.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. But
yeah.
It's surprising. It's I think about how would I feel playing this on OG hardware with no save states. Like, I would have to start over many times. Like, I would use all the continues and have to start over many times. Like, how long would it take me to beat this that way? You know,
honestly, it's one of those. It's like, it's kind of, there's some of it's like, almost, it's clearly, I feel nauseous mentioning this game in the same breath, but kind of like Mike Tyson's Punch Out in the way that, like, it's not going to happen on OG hardware. It's not happening, Like, there's just under no circumstance this game's going to get beat, and I can accept that. And, like, that's part of this is a game I own. I enjoy playing it, but it's not a game that's ever going to get beaten. I don't care how much I do it. You know what I mean? There's just no chance. Leave the Sega on for months. It'll never turn it off. Whatever. There's not enough continues. There's just no chance. And, like, that. I don't know. Again, it's a different time. Like, you want, like, back then it was, there's the whole thing about Nintendo trying to make games that can't be played in a fucking rental, and, like, trying to, like, make it a game that has to be bought because that's more profitable for the business. Like, this is a game and a half, and that falls into that category, and, like, maybe that's again something you can't criticize them for. It's like, that's what that was a deliberate choice that was conscious, and some players probably applaud them for that. So yeah. And, like, it pains me to not have, because, like, the thing that could potentially tip me emotionally on a game like this is that boss battle shit, like, with fucking all the way back to our very first episode and fucking Ghosts and Goblins. And, like, yes, that game is miserable, but I beat that final boss and I was like, it's good. Like, at least from the thing where it restarts over is fucked up, but like the process of beating that boss after all that time, and I think that one actually didn't pay off maybe like I wanted to, but the point being, like, not having experienced that to know whether or not it fixed some of my emotional problems and emotional shortcomings that I got from this game bums me out a little bit, because that's why I'm so diligent about finishing these things, because
let me speak on that topic then. It was not at all satisfying, especially partially. I'm sure.
Ending, though, Jay. Maybe if you.
I was about to say, I'm sure partially because I didn't save the girl, but at the same time, no dialogue, no explanation. You beat it, and that's the end. And it was just kind of like. I take it back to this. For me, it goes back to those three questions again, and I simplify things. Did I have fun? Like, was I having fun playing this? I will tell you, overall, I was not. Would I recommend it to someone else? No, I would not recommend you go out and play Shinobi. Would I play it again for fun via remastered version or something like that if available? Maybe, just to see, like, if the controls are tighter and see if it's better.
They fixed it.
But, like, otherwise, like, for the amount of times that I was frustrated and angry and spent time going over, like, the same freaking thing, trying to run around this map, like, for that ending to end like that, I was just like, why did I play this game? Like, forget this. Like, I'm done. Like, not worth it.
I mean, I don't have a problem, and granted, like I said, I didn't experience it in the proper emotional context of having beat the boss myself, and then now you get this moment to relish in that, so I didn't get to. I'm just watching the video, so I don't know if that makes this more valid or not. I'm not sure. I mean, that's to be judged by someone else, but, like, I kind of impressed by the cinematic ending and the simplicity of it, because I think it does convey what needs to be conveyed in either case. Either that you are unfulfilled and did not save your girl, and your quest kind of continues to make that right in some way, shape, or form. And we are going to get a third installment of the series, and probably more. I don't even know. But on the good side too, same thing. It's kind of like just this simple, but what's not. Let me ask you this: what dangling thread?
For as long as it took me to freaking beat that last damn boss, so long to get this like short little like here you are standing with the sun. Thanks. Like it was just like I spent so long trying not to die over and over,
but what's
with precision.
What's the narrative? What's the narrative thread left hanging that you did not have satisfied though? What's the thing that actually gets what would be told to you there that you
not even told to me, but just like I don't know, just there were so many of these fights, boss fights, where you had to spend so much time being on point without like losing focus to be able to make it through. For just like this little cinematic to be like the end of your journey. It was like I felt like it should have been longer. There should have been more stuff to happen, better cinema. I don't know. Anything.
I think I mean you can be upset about the experience, but I think for the time, I don't think you can criticize the endings. I think this is as much as you're getting from any video game at this time.
All I know is finishing this, I was just like
wait, I can totally buy the unsatisfaction, but I don't think you can base it in a lack of effort with the ending. Like I think the cinematic is fucking absolutely beautiful and more than you get from most games at this time. And I think it in both cases gives you some narrative closure. It's not telling you maybe where you go from here, but that's not really a video game's goal. Like that's going to happen in the sequel. Like you're going to find out where you went from here. So I won't criticize it for that at all. And I think the art for these is absolutely stunning. Like I think the art for both these things is absolutely beautiful. Incredible 16-bit looking shit. With the camera movement and even the actual artwork. So that I would not criticize it for, but I can certainly get still being unsatisfied. I won't contest that at all. Yeah, man. I hate to give it no blessing just because it was too fucking hard for me at the end. The caveat to that, though, is I don't think that's where the bulk of my negativity comes from. I think it comes from a lot of the minutia throughout the actual, like you said, what feelings did I have while playing this, and I think the good was not outweighed by the bad. And for a video game, especially, let alone any emotional experience, that should not be the case. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
No blessing for you. Yeah,
I think no too for me. I think King Lorik does not bestow Revenge of Shinobi his blessing, but he respects your hustle, Sega.
Sure.
Okay. So that is our spin through the Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis. And next up, we have Sega Visions Issue 1. Been waiting for that for a while. Pretty excited. And you can subscribe to the pod on the platform provided by whatever dumbest company that serves up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on that podcast platform of choice, or any other for that matter. The website for the pod is nyehentertainment.com/ISOH pod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the pod on Facebook and or Instagram. You can link to the YouTube, or rather a link to the YouTube gameplay videos playlist will be in the show notes. And there's the ISOH subreddit if you want to get down with us on Reddit, hate Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. And we don't have a Patreon, but if you like giving money to things podcasters tell you to and would like to do so at our direction, the Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities, and that is cool as fuck. ablegamers.org is where you can find them. We have t-shirts on the website, and they're dope, and proceeds on those after pod expenses go to Able Gamers. So score those if you think our logo's cool. Jay, what's your socials?
Gentleman JB without the second E. That's my gamer tag, and that's where you can find me on the socials.
I am on Instagram at MyShapeKeyIsBroke. I am on Twitter at Josh Folan. And my Oculus thing is MyShiftKeyIsBroke too. Hit me up. Hit me up for some Demio. Okay, bye.
Bye.